a lifetime endeavor. If people get into lifting with the pretense of this is almost like a lifelong commitment.
Hey man, don't start the gear early.
Yep.
Take your prime years and do it naturally. Take those years where you can get the most out of the little, minimal effort in a sense.
That day's training dictated my whole outlook on the day. If I had a shitty lift, then everything sucked. Everything sucked. I needed to kind of reevaluate my priorities and how I looked at things.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk.
All right, guys, we're back with another episode of Table Talk. Today is a Table Talk crew cast, I guess we could say.
Yeah.
We're having a VIP podcast crew retreat this weekend. So we have some guys out there that are going to be at the retreat that have been part of the Table Talk crew since the inception. Since the start.
Pretty much.
So today we have Zach Marsteller.
My man, that's
I
it.
nailed it. You know,
Perfect.
Rodney Woodward, Jared Simmons, and Tom as a co-host again. And rather than going through all these different points, what I'm going to do is we're going to go around the table, right? So give me your best lifts and then what you do for a living.
Oh, boy.
And we'll go real quick through. That way we can get to the same shit we've been talking about for the past 2 hours.
Yeah. I haven't shut up about drugs and powerlifting since I walked in the door. It's been great.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I'll go first. All right, I am the mediocre guy here today, the middleweight. I'm a top between two.
Middleweight.
Don't fucking challenge me.
Yeah, I'm 220, 240-ish.
All right.
That's pretty middleweight. It's not. I'm not big. Big man will start at 250. I'm like medium sized.
Got it.
But my best lift so far is a 910 squat and an 830 bench and a 710 deadlift. Total 2450, like 230. Mm-hmm. So it's.
In your profession?
I am a licensed land surveyor, and I work as an estimator and project manager for a civil construction company.
And a professional gamer, which we're going to talk about.
Oh, I'm a rank 1 World of Warcraft player. I'm a 0.1% player to this day.
Yeah, and club foot.
I have 2 club feet, both of them.
Right.
I'm a Mace Shriner kid, and now a Shriner too.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yep. Jared?
Jared Simmons. I guess recent lifts, recent competition would be my best lifts. I'm a 148er. I am wider than I am tall, so I don't know what this bullshit is about. Medium.
Girthy where it counts.
Squat and comp 540, bench 355, and deadlift 320 for 1215 total at 142. I am a trying to be a coach, but full-time job is project management within a construction company.
All right. Tom, we know Tom. So
My best lift is lifting
Hi,
myself
Tom.
out of bed in the morning to exist.
And Rodney.
Rodney Woodward. So my best lifts are squats 1250, the bench is 964, and deadlift 788.
So you're just getting started then.
Just getting started.
Yeah.
Getting started.
Rookie numbers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I work as I'm a fireman.
All right. So where do we want to jump off here? Do we want to jump off with backgrounds or just go into stupid topics?
Whatever you guys want, I'm down for anything. We can keep it going. We've been pretty much bullshitting for like the past 2-3
Zach's
hours.
background is stupid.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So what is it? So what is that?
Oh man, I'll take the powerlifting route with that first. I was introduced to it to a very different environment. I was used to the West Side guys, the old people who are just demented and fucked up, drugs, powerlifting, felonies. That was the background I came into. Mm-hmm. So when roster league started getting big, I didn't understand this clean eating, clean living, don't do drugs, don't eat caffeine.
Roster league?
Raw.
Oh,
league,
raw.
yeah.
Okay.
The raw stuff started. The raw revolution, they could say, was just odd to me. You're telling me people don't just stay up all night and party and go to the meet? What are you talking about? That's just very odd to me.
So how old were you when you started?
17 years old. It started out, I didn't know what powerlifting was. I was very fat in high school for a little bit. I did jiu-jitsu and boxing for a little bit from 13 to about 17. Trouble kid, you get to go for free, grew up in the projects. I went to 14 different schools before the time I finally graduated. Very broken home, all that fun.
14?
14, yeah.
How?
Well, when you sell...
I would expect that if somebody's in the military.
Yeah, no. Well, when you sell products and stuff like that, you go in, parts of your life where you're the people that are racing, you have a lot of money, and then they don't, so you have to move a ton.
Yeah.
So every 6 months we'd end up moving. Sometimes it had real extravagant places or small places, but we did some time in the project housing, and then we finally moved up to a normal suburban place, kind of low income, went from being completely poor to a low income environment. So very different. But 14 different schools it was over with. And to be fair, I was not the best kid. There was never any guidance, no strong father figures. My mother was pretty much absent the entire time. It was not uncommon for me to be left alone for 3 to 6 months. They would mail money in an envelope to the house and note, this is stay alive, figure it out. So I lived with my grandparents the majority of my time anyway, until they passed away in my teenage years. And just there's a lot of rough stuff we can go on that path if we really want to.
Yeah.
So
how did powerlifting come to be?
Well, so I'll bring it out. So to be fair, you're gonna have to dial me back in occasionally. I'll just keep rambling on topics a little bit here. But how powerlifting comes into it. So at 13, being a troubled kid, there was a boxing gym down the road where you could go for free till you're 17. So I did that for a while. Then about 15, it shut down. Tried to do jiu-jitsu, and I just couldn't afford it. Didn't have any money. So the time I got about 17, I just went to the gym to get stronger. I was like, okay, I want to get stronger. I'm fighting at school, and just being a dumb kid. Found out the barbell was, and then I just found out powerlifting. It's like, wait a second. I don't have to diet like a bodybuilder. I don't have to run anymore. I can just get strong and get big. I'm sold, man. Sounds great. So about that time, that was 13 years ago, so probably 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. Yeah, about 2010 I found it. And luckily for me, for some weird reason, Middle Tennessee has a massive influx of strength. There's gyms everywhere. From the centralized of Nashville, if you go an hour north, hour east, hour west, there's a powerlifting gym in Amano, which is massive. I don't think people can appreciate how well we really have it, and especially for gear. There's about 20 geared people in each gym and about an hour away from each other. Mm-hmm. So I just rode in the gym one day, saw a bunch of dudes eating Popeyes and reverse hyper.
What gym was it?
It was Cell Blocks, baby. Brent Tracy's. It was one of the first ones.
So not that much different than your home environment at the
Oh,
time?
not at all, man. This is fucking perfect. This is great. So how it started was funny enough. I met Brent pretty early on, and I would come and go and visit occasionally. But there was a little gym, Olympus, I'm still at majority of my time in Murfreesboro about to go train. So we were at a meet in Gatlinburg. I got involved in trying to help judge spot and load, and I finally was allowed to judge a big meet. And this was when the Millers were still running SPF back in the day, when Chris and all them were still in it, and Mark. I went to Gatlinburg and got to judge my first big meet, and one of their bench-only guys, which I have a fucking if about some bench-only guys. We'll deal into that later. So how it was is he went to bench, and his one elbow didn't lock out all the way, and I didn't give it to him. I wasn't going to. Like, fuck that. You're perfectly healthy. I saw you in the warm-up room doing this. So he gets up, fuck that motherfucker, I'm going to beat his ass. I'm like, we'll handle it after the meet, no problem. So then one of the guys was telling me, hey, man, the cell block guys are real mad at you. I'm like, well, fuck them. Why are they mad at me for? Because I didn't give them a handout? Earn it. Because I took him coming over from Wade Johnson being in the head chair. So it was a very different dynamic when I got into it. I wanted to be the guy that was strict. I'm not going to give anyone anything. You can be my friend, but when I'm in the chair, there's no freebies given out. So then I just called Brent after the meet. Hey, man, why don't you guys teach me how to just really dial in and learn how to judge this? Because I have no idea how equipped lifting works. And that was kind of when I started going full-time, when Kurt Porter was still there, the big dog, and Brent was still training at the time, and that's a wild man. So I just fell right into it and loved it. So that's, God, me and him are close. That's basically my dad. So I call him my dad. Yeah. So dude that raised me. So, there's one picture in his office. It's me, him, and that motherfucker Dylan in his office of all the years. So I got a lot of good cell block stories, but.
We'll get back to that.
Oh, yeah. I know these other guys need to speak for a little bit. So.
Jared, same thing. How'd you get started?
Man, it took a while, actually, for me to get started. Because obviously you can see on the podcast. So I'm 4'6", not exactly the tallest guy in the room. Grew up in rural Illinois. I actually grew up in Dan Bell's. Dan Bell's one of our neighbors. Grew up a farm boy, kind of rough and tumble. Out on ATVs, walking the waterways with a 22. By the time I was 8 years old. Alcoholic dad, not really around too much. Had a kick-ass mom that raised me to kind of, I kind of stood out in this small little farm community. Kind of raised me to take no shit, to be the person I wanted to be. But we had to fight. It's rural Illinois. I think times about 30, 40 years behind on the times. There's a lot of stereotypes where I was told when I was growing up, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. You can't play football. You'll get hurt. So I was kind of, I did find my way into the weight room in high school. But I think weight rooms back then are a lot different than they are now. I think we have people that kind of lead the rooms a little bit better now. Back then it was throw some quarters on the bar and hopefully he can maybe bench. And there was no real guidance. So, you know, I did what most I guess, bored teenagers do is I went to keggers every weekend. Learned to do a keg stand. Was able to outdrink pretty much anybody twice my height, and kind of, I had good alcoholic genes. I carried that for quite a while, up into my 20s, to where eventually I decided I needed to get to school, needed to kind of shape my act up. Actually, went through rehab, just because, you know, when you're 20 years old and you got a 8-ball a day addiction and beer, it doesn't really lead you too far. And I was walking through the mall one day, and was in like Walden Books or some bookstore, and there was Flex magazine, and Triple H was on the cover. And it clicked. I go, that's what I want to be. I'm tired of being told you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm gonna be a badass. That's what I'm gonna be a badass. Got into the gym, started lifting. Went from the YMCA up to a Globo gym. Found out I was actually good at something. Found out that I was actually good at bench, at squat. We weren't really training the dead too much at that point. It was back in the day, a bunch of old just bench only meets that like Ed Angstrom, Charlie Driscoll were running, basically out of Holiday Inns, and not even in a shirt. I was going against guys in the old Inns or Blast shirts, but I was going raw and coming in and just kicking ass every little podunk country county fair meet. So it kind of stuck with me for a while. Still trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with life. Single, maybe a girlfriend here and there. But really the gym was life. I was getting into a band, touring with a band, playing quite a bit, working at managing a tattoo shop. So I was kind of in and out of the gym for quite a while. The healthy lifestyle and the party lifestyle weren't really matching up for a while. It finally clicked, I think. I'm 44 years old. I think it probably actually clicked a few years ago, 2016, when I decided to wreck my van drunk, break my back, and went from being somebody strong to somebody incredibly weak. And I knew I had to get back in the gym. That was the only thing that made sense. That was still the only thing that I was good at. I'd been a failure of a father. By that point, I had 2 kids. So failure of a father, failure of a partner. The gym was the one thing that made sense. Like I said, I knew I was good at that. I had to start there. So about 8 years ago, I got back into it. And actually, I came in after this whole raw revolution or whatever. I didn't know what the hell had been going on really in the sport. I just knew that I needed to lift and that I needed to squat, bench, and deadlift. Got healthy, got strong, started competing, started actually changing up gyms, went from commercial and Globo gyms to working out a QC barbell in Davenport, Iowa. And then eventually made my way to my home gym where I've been at for 7 years now, Jebben's Powerlifting.
Did you find that, because there's rehab and there's all this other shit, that you just kind of laid out,
yeah,
that your path out of that was to just kind of double down on what you're good at?
Yeah.
So would that be the advice that you would give other people, that their life is completely fucked up right now?
Yeah.
And to find the one thing that they're good at, if it's training or art or whatever it's going to be, start there?
Yeah, I had to hold on to that aspect. I had to simplify everything in life. I couldn't, life was falling apart. I could either pour myself into work, which I'd done before, and I would just get frustrated because somebody else was reaping all the rewards that I was putting in and I wasn't getting shit out of it. I could pour myself into AA or NA and sit around a table and be depressed 3 times a day from going, that's not the life I wanted. Strength is what I knew I was good at, and I had to find it again. And it got me out of myself.
What do you mean?
I was able to start when I was good, since I was good at lifting. Instead of being a selfish prick all the time, I was able to actually start giving back to others to help them find their strength. Mm-hmm. I had to do that. I had to get out of myself also. I guess just to have some sense of sanity.
Drill down into that a little bit more, because you mean that you're in your own head? When you're in your own head, it's negative all the time?
Yeah, it can still be that way. Definitely in my own head, to where, I still don't think I'm good enough, being where I'm at within the sport, or being able to lift, how I am, or people even asking me, hey, what should I do here? How should I open up? What opener should I take? Where should I make my jumps? My lockout sucks. What should I do about this? Thinking that, I'm not good enough to help others out. That's something, that I battle. But, when you're when you're a drunk, or you're out on a 6-day bender, for an 8-ball of Coke, that's when where nobody else matters. It's you're living in the moment. You want what you want right then. I had to get out of that. I had to put all of my needs, all of my that impulsiveness to the side, and by helping others, I was able to put myself second, and put somebody else's needs that needed me first, if that makes sense.
But ultimately, did you find that gave you a lot more fulfillment than that quick win, quick thrill lifestyle ever gave you? I mean, like you're talking there about how that is inherently selfish, and some people would look at that as like, being selfish is doing what you want to do, and that should make you happy, whatever. But now you've gone down a path which is maybe less about you and more about others. Mm-hmm. And do you think that has now given you more of a bedrock of?
Oh yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I get a sense of fulfillment, of happiness, of peace, being able to know that what I'm doing not only is helping others, but it's me giving back. Because others were there to help me when I first got in. Others were there to help me. So I guess it's my way of trying to return that favor, that chance.
Well, staying on that theme, others were there to help you, but with this being a big chunk of your life, you let a lot of those people down that were trying to help you. Right? So some of them would stick around over and over and over. You see where I'm going here?
Yeah, the people I let down the most. The people I let down the most more don't get this sport. They don't understand the lifting. It's more family and friends that I let down the most. It was once I got into the sport, and I think once I realized what it meant to me, or what finding strength could mean to others. It wasn't really those people that my gym family. It's kind of weird to say I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want to fail them. I felt a sense of accountability, and a sense of belonging, where I didn't really have that with the people in the past, the family and friends I did let down.
Well, you noted finding strength in helping others, but what you're actually saying is that's finding strength in helping yourself. Yeah.
It's me finding my own strength too.
Yes.
And then being good enough myself and strong in a place myself to where I could help others. Yeah.
All right. Rodney, you're up next, but you failed to mention one critical aspect of your lift.
What's that?
Is you're very close to 3,000 pound total.
Right.
Right. Which is, there's only what?
Two people.
Two. Two people that have done that. So I had to note that. Yeah. Because that's kind of like an important one there. So how did you get into powerlifting? Actually, I know bodybuilding was kind of part of this process.
Yeah. So I started out, it really started when I was a kid. Like, I used to watch World's Strongest Man on ESPN back when they would show it. And I thought that was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. So I really liked the thought of being strong and doing that, but that's not really like a thing. Like, you got to know people that have that equipment to find it and everything. But that led down the path, like I played football, went to the gym. I liked playing football, but I hated being on a team. Like, I just couldn't stand like losing on account of other people. I didn't mind if I fucked up, because that's my fault. So then that turned into, didn't really know anything about powerlifting. So got into bodybuilding, because that's kind of everywhere. Did one show, realized real quick when I stepped out on stage that I hated it. And
what part of that made you realize that?
Just I like the dieting. That wasn't bad. I mean, it doesn't look like it now, but I didn't mind the diet. I didn't mind the training. It was just like the actual competition. Like, I had zero interest about standing out there and flexing and all that stuff. the posing like routine, the music, I had no interest in that. Like I even asked the guy, I was like, do I have to do this? He's like, yes, you have to do it. It's part of the thing. So I just went out and did it, and that was a one and done. And I kind of realized, being like 6'2", that I was not, I'd have to be like 400 pounds on stage to actually look like I did bodybuilding. But I worked at a gym at that point, and I randomly ran into, well, let me back up. So I was a bouncer, and I met this guy. He was the head security guy. His name was Elliot Smith. Great big dude, looked like Goldberg, biggest human I've ever seen in real life. And he powerlifted in the Marine Corps, on the Marine Corps team. He started back in '85, used to train with like Kurt Kowalski and all those guys. And he was like, you should give this a try. And at this point, I'm like, well, I mean, that's just lifting weights, dude. I already do that. And he's like, no, man, it's like a competition thing. So we started training together. I did one like deadlift only meet. That was pretty cool. And then he was on the way back side of his lifting career. Like he had 2 shoulders that were fucked up. He had a knee replacement, I think. And he finally told me, he's like, look, dude, I'm done doing this. Like, you should keep going though and do like a meet, like a full meet. And I'm like, all right. So at this point, I'm working at the gym. I do one raw meet, and it was cool. I had a great time. But randomly, I was reading through, I think it was either a Flex magazine or a Muscle and Fitness or something, and Louis Simmons had written an article in there. So I'm reading about West Side and all this stuff, and I remember one of the guys that owned the gym, I'm telling him, like, you know motherfuckers can squat 1,000 pounds? And he's like, no. I was like, I'm going to do this. This looks really cool. I don't know what all this shit is that they're wearing, but I'm going to figure this out. And that led me to where I train at now, CVA Barbell.
And when was that?
That was, so I did that show in 05, I think. So that's probably like 2009, 10, somewhere around there. Yeah. And that's where it's been at ever since. Just found out down here, figured out what equipment was, and been doing it ever since. I love it.
You tell me there's Mankini Rodney pictures out there?
There are, man.
You didn't tell anybody?
There are, dude. Dude, if you want to Google it, it was like, I don't know, man. It was like 05. I don't remember the name of the show. It was a...
That's very convenient.
No,
Of course there is. No more evidence.
It was an OCB show, so it was like a natural bodybuilding show.
So it's on, someone out there has made a profile with it on Grindr, for sure. Then.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
100%.
When you're getting into the equipment and where you're at now in terms of numbers, how does what you're hitting now compared to what your expectations were when you got started? Like, were these even ballpark figures you even thought about when you got into it?
No, so I'll be honest, like my first goal in it was I just wanted to squat 1,000,000. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I remember the driving force really behind that. So I did a single ply meet after that. I squatted 7, and then I bought a pair of briefs, and I just wore my single ply suit over that, squatted 8. And then I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to wear. In my head, I had made it out to be way more than it was, right? So I'm like, this is going to take me a while to get to 1,000. So I go back to the gym I'm working at the time still, and I tell that same guy, I'm like, yeah, man, I think it's going to happen. I'm going to squat 1,000,000. And he looks right at me. He's like, you're never going to squat 1,000. You're not one of those guys. I was like, okay, man, fuck you.
Yeah.
And so I did that 800 in October, I think it was. And then proceeded to just train as hard as I could. And so I actually squatted 1,000,000 in March after that. And
Imagine if you were one of those guys. You'd have got there even faster.
yeah. So, and yeah, then from there, that was kind of my point, because at that point I'm looking around, because I had that at that time, because, I mean, I knew enough at that point that there were people that, I think at that point, I think it was Andy Bolton, maybe had squatted 1,200 or something like that. So I knew there was numbers beyond 1,000,000, but yeah, at the time, that was like a huge mountain.
See, that motivation aspect really interests me there, because obviously, like, 1,000 is such like we put so much importance on like a big grand round number.
Yeah.
And as soon as you break that, like, the motivation to go from 950 to 1,000 must be enormous.
Yeah.
What's the motivation then to go from 1,000 to 1050? Does anything change for you? And then also, you're breaking into boundaries now where like very few or maybe no one has really been.
I actually had a time after that. So when I squatted that grand, like I hadn't crossed that other bridge yet. But I did like no recovery work. I did nothing. Like that was my only driving purpose, was to just walk back in that gym and tell that dude, fuck you. I did it anyways. So I ended up earning myself, like my left hip is all fucked up. Like, my back got all jacked up. I was really not in a good spot. So I ended up after that, I did like 1 or 2 more meets. I actually went backwards. I went to squatted a grand. The next meet after that, I think I barely got like 940. And then the meet after that, I barely did like 830. More of that was just how I was training, because I did have that point. I was like, well, fuck, I did a grand that fast. I can do 1100 next. And that was not how it worked out whatsoever. So I ended up taking a bunch of time off, lost a bunch of weight, went back down. I always competed at like 308 at that point. I went back down. I was like 260. And then randomly one day, everything started feeling better. I still trained. I just did a bunch of raw stuff. I didn't wear any equipment. One of the training partners, this guy Matt, he was getting ready for a meet, so I was just kind of lifting with him. He was a 242 guy, and I actually put on one of his old suits one day just because I was like, fuck it, I'll see what happens. And everything felt like great. So that's what turned that back in.
That
again.
Gave you a bit of belief back, maybe, that like, no,
yeah,
I can
like I'm not done.
Again.
I can do this again. So got back into it, started training again. I squatted 1,025 at the meet after that. So this is like a probably 3-year stretch of me not doing a whole lot of anything in equipment. And then I did that meet. I didn't PR the bench. I didn't PR the deadlift. I missed the shit out of one of the Circumax weights and broke 2 of my ribs and fucked myself all up.
Nice.
But still ended up squatting 1,025, so that was
With
cool.
2 broken ribs?
Yeah. I wasn't going to pull out of the meet. I'm no quitter.
My man.
Right.
I mean, the suit would hold them in place. Anyway,
Yeah, that's
right?
what I told him. I was like, I'm good, man. I'm fine. Because it was like, plus I had enough time. Like, I followed everything that Lou Simmons wrote down, like, I followed it to a T. So that's what, I'm not saying that's why I got hurt, but, like, I took that weight 3 weeks out. So I had another 2 weeks of, like, not doing anything to kind of let it heal up. And then, I did that. And then I started coming out here a couple times, like a couple of the seminars earlier on, like the old compound down the road here. Learned a bunch of stuff. And I think really the other part after that was just learning how to train better from reading. I've literally read everything you guys have ever put out for the most part. And then the real turning point was coming out here for the Train Your Ass Off. Because I got to get the little things I wasn't doing correctly picked apart. Like, I've always been strong. Being strong's never been an issue, but, like, if you can't display it, it doesn't fucking matter. And that's what was holding me back, was not being able to display it right. And then from there, just getting all that stuff in line. And then that was the second portion. I came out here, I think I squatted 1,050 out here. And fixed everything up and tweaked the training for me. Like, I don't necessarily follow a system. It's just kind of a blend of everything together between conjugate and block periodization and everything. And, just everything clicked. And I finally had that moment of having a couple people that I value their opinion kind of tell me, be like, bro, you're way stronger than you think you are. You can probably do this.
Yeah.
And then, that's been the last couple meets. Like the meet after I was out here, I went and did I think I totaled like 20, I think it was like 26 something. And then the next one after that, it was like a 28, I believe. And then this last one was the 2940.
So what's the time frame from you getting back into gear to hitting the numbers that you've recently hit that are what they
probably like 7 or 8 years.
So it's been it's people would look at it and go, well, this guy's squatted a grand. Surely it's not that long to get to 1,100, but
it's been a little
7 or 8
ways.
years to claw that 100, 200 pounds on there.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and when he came out for the Train Your Ass Off, I mean, it was just little nuanced things, like picking the weight, holding it a little bit longer than you would really
Yeah.
need to. Very minor things that a lot of people wouldn't think of, right?
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with the weights that he's dealing with, it's just a major damn thing. You know,
without a
you
doubt.
could see, you know, he was way stronger than what he was displaying. And at the time, I don't think he knew that either. You know, so reinforcing that was a big part too.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I think we had a conversation.
We did.
You know, could you squat 1,200? I'm like, dude, I think you can total 3,000 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, you're strong enough to do it right now. It's just these little things, and when you're dealing with gear, those little things, man, they're giant, man, and
Yeah.
especially when you have the strength. And you have to be in gear. You have to be stronger than what you can actually total, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, because you might miss a lift or whatever it's going to be. And optimally, you don't want every lift that you make in a meet to grind.
Yes.
Right.
You know, there should always kind of be something left, and recovery was kind of an issue as well. You know, to kind of play into that. When did you get into the fire department?
So I started out as a volunteer when I was like 15 years old, and then I got hired in the fire department as a career. It was 8 years ago. So I was 39 now, so I was 31. Yeah.
So how do you balance the physical demands of that with the powerlifting?
So they kind of go hand in hand. I would tell people, like, as far as like riding a fire truck, I mean, like, if you wanted to get really prepared for it, just riding a fire truck, strongman. I mean, being strong and being athletic, they go hand in hand. Like, you don't have to do a bunch of CrossFit. It's not a bunch of cardio. Like, it's, you know, 45 minutes of just work, and then you're kind of done. So they kind of went hand in hand with that. The only thing that gets a little off, like, I work shift work, so we work 24-hour shifts. So I work, is a give and take. Like, I only work 10 days a month. But like I said, I work 24 hours. I work at a mildly busy firehouse. So, you know, there's a good chance I could be awake for that whole 24 hours straight. So that's just where learning how to, like, auto-regulate and just understand that maybe you just go home and sleep and then do it again later. Or sometimes, you know, like, if I don't have anything going on, say whatever, like if I work a Saturday, so that means, like, Sunday I'll be in the gym by myself because guys don't train on Sundays. So if I had, like, max effort work to do or something like that, usually I'll program, you know, that'll be a day that I deadlift and do stuff I don't really need any help with. So, like, I still might go to the gym and do stuff, but it's literally, I think that taught me that whole, like, just do what you can that day and fucking leave. So
I think that's a really important aspect, though, that maybe gets looked over in that. You know, you talked about how your training is a mix of conjugate and other stuff, because there are aspects of every training program that probably do and don't work for you
Right.
in the context that you're in right now. You know, if you weren't working 24-hour shifts or whatever, maybe you could run conjugate just as is written, whatever. But for you, there's elements that you can keep and there's elements that you have to take out. And do you think that's, you know, obviously with the level that you're operating at, that importance gets kind of magnified? But
Absolutely.
do you think that's something that people get too tied in on? Is just like X system or X program, I like it, it works for me, therefore I have to, if I don't run it as is written in stone, it's going to just fall apart.
it does. Like, so that's what I ran into with those meets after I squatted a Grant was, you know, the conjugate shit worked, but I still ran it exactly as it was written. So it would come down to, like, Circumax, right? Doing like 440 pounds of band tension and then the bar weight. Like, I was really good at that, but it was too much. So, you know, like, my best, when I did that level of training, like, my best Circumax, I squatted like I think it was 760 with all that band tension, and went to the meet and squatted 830, you know, because I just think I was stronger than too strong almost, you know, like, I put too much into that training session and had nothing left for the meet because I just didn't recover and missed the peak and all that stuff. So whereas now everything gets dialed back a little bit and it all gets tweaked and changed, I just think you just got to figure out how to train you. And I didn't come up with that by myself. So the guy that runs the gym, Carlos, super smart, like, another person that, much like Dave, like, you know, saw that potential, was like, dude, you're way better than you fucking think you are, but you're going to have to figure out what you need to do. He's like, you're probably not going to just be able to run conjugate nonstop just like it's written down. He's like, you've got to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you and when to pull things out and put them in. So I had that time frame of like figuring that stuff out, because I never really had enough money to hire a coach or anything. I just kind of always done this, not really on my own, because I had Carlos in my corner, and he would like, he'd be like, I don't know if that's the right way to do that. Why don't we try this? So we're always experimenting with stuff, and that's kind of how I got to where I am now, with just trial and error.
But I think like all of you, for all of you, how many, either for yourselves or like high performing lifters that you've encountered, how many of them, if you say, what does your program look like, they can just say, oh, I run this, and they can name a program that, do you know what I mean? No one at the top level or whatever is running a program that's just pulled off someone written, generically, right?
Right.
They might be able to tell you the influences that have led to the end result, but no one who's performing, maybe they're not even elite level, it's just elite relative to their own ceiling, is saying, oh yeah, I run 5-3-1 as written, or I run conjugate as written. Right? And that step of taking ownership of your own programming, becoming your own coach is, I would, and I'd like your input on this, is probably one of the most crucial steps that people would have to take to get to probably where they want to be.
Well, that's what I was going to say, and that would be the question for all you guys, just to kind of double down on that is, throughout this podcast from the inception, I keep harping on, you got to learn how to auto-regulate if you want to be great. Kind of rhymes. It's a good thing, right? But as you kind of noted, and this is kind of what I want to hear from all you guys, is that's easier said than done.
It is, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I understand it, you now understand it. I mean, once you understand it, you get it, right?
Yes.
But to help other people understand that, without tearing themselves apart, which I think might actually be part of the whole process.
I was going to say, like,
part of the stepping stones.
I don't think it's maybe optimal, if you will, but that is what helped me to understand it, is getting to that point of like being fucked up is like, well, I can't do this like this anymore. So now I have to do this differently.
Forces you to peel
because I'm
back.
not going to stop. Like, I'm not going to stop training. This is what I love doing this.
Oh,
shit.
we'll die doing
right.
it. We'll do this till we're 67. Yeah. That's
But I suppose where does you're talking to someone who hasn't hit that point, right? How do you create the motivation for them to, because as you've discovered, like making that step and that introspection and going into that detail to design your own it's not easy.
No, it's not.
And it's an ongoing process where every session is looked at and so
right.
How do you convince someone to make that effort until they hit that point? If everything's going smoothly, it's going to be hard to say, look, you need to start doing all this really hard stuff. They're going to be like, fuck you. What I'm doing is, whereas if they're coming to you broken and they've done 3 meets where they've gone backwards, then they're like, oh, can you tell me about that stuff? Right. Now I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah. I know for, the training partners at the gym, like, I think it's because we all train together, so they see, like, well, obviously he's doing this stuff, so they probably know what they're talking about. So that's easier. I don't know how you would go about it with someone you didn't know, because I don't know, they don't know you. Like, you could be full of shit just trying to tell them something, and they're like, I'm not listening to that guy. Fuck
Well,
him.
the falter with that, too, is people will go off, not the time of training. They'll go off your numbers. And there's plenty of people who come in 2 or 3 years in this, and they're phenomenally strong. But that longevity doesn't correlate with it whatsoever. They fall off quickly. Just on the basis, 8, 15, probably 10 years of training. The general consensus, all of us probably have about 8 to 10 years minimum of training, and that's why we're at where we are to understand auto-regulation. We've gone through the joy of self-training. It's part of it. I completely agree. You have to go through some shitty times and be a little bit broken, beat up, go backwards to really peel it back. Without that, I don't think the process will ever work. You'll never
I think that's
want to
another
learn to auto-regulate.
problem with people, too, is they're too afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like, so with this, like I said, all the trial and error, it's like a science experiment. I never had any issue with, like, getting to the end of a training cycle and not having anything out of it. I just chalked it up as, like, cool, man, that's 12 weeks of shit I never have to do again.
That's a great way of looking at it.
Or, I won't even say never do again. It's more just like, all right, this is going to go over here, because there is some stuff that I do now that didn't work 5 or 6 years ago, like straight up, like, percentage based stuff. Like, I have that in there now towards the end of a meat prep, because now I've kind of, it's not that it didn't work before, I just don't think I was using it correctly before. So now I can understand it a little better and I use it in a different way. So now it's good. But yeah, I think I think a lot of that, you see it a lot. People just, and I get it, man. It sucks to train for a meet or whatever, and then you get to the end and you're like, fuck, dude, I'm not going to do anything close to what I thought I was going to. But like I tell the guys at the gym, I'm like, sometimes this shit just doesn't work. Like, it's fine, man. Well, there's another meet. Like, we'll do another one.
Just get your big book excuses ready. Grab the hamstring for go up to the bar or something like that. Oh, my shoulder's 2 weeks out or something.
What, for example, did you have to change with the percentages to make it work for you? Because, again, this is percentage-based training is one that people will die on a hill about, right? It's either fucking fantastic, everyone should do it, or it's the most asinine system ever created,
All right,
right?
so the way I kind of put it in there now is I still run Circumax stuff, just not the way it was written in the book. Now I use chains instead of bands. I just found that like pretty much whatever I can squat with chain and bar weight, that's the only accommodating resistance I measure is just the Circumax stuff. The rest of it's irrelevant. I don't care. But I know for a fact whatever I can squat with chain and bar weight is roundabout, we'll say like within 40 pounds of what I can squat. So like this last meet prep, I knew I was like, I'm going to go after 1250. So I knew to do that. Like I had to squat at least 1,000 pounds and then 240 pounds of chain. So that just worked backwards. Like in prep for that, I just used the percentages of 1,000 plus the chains. And that's how it was. I was just like, well, if I can't squat 75%, and I just used the chart, Prillaman's chart. I was like, not the whole chart, but like I dialed it down for powerlifting. I was like, well, if I can't squat this 75% wave, no chance I'm squatting a grand for a single with all this. And that I guess I use it more now as a gauge of like, I don't have like a target. I have something I want to do, but I kind of let the training and the weights tell me like, well, yeah, you're right here. You're ready to go for this. Or no, it's just not in the cards right now. So dial it back. And this is probably what you're going to end up at.
True. But like, if you take that little sound bite there where you say that, it sounds so brutally simple, right? I know if I can squat X with chain weight, I can do Y on the platform. But the amount of fucking around and finding out that happens over here, that tiny little sound bite is enormous.
Well,
huge.
There's another caveat here, though, too, because if you're talking percentages, right, and he has a 500-pound squat, and you're going to make, say, 10% of that's going to be 50 pounds, so a 5% jump per week is 25 pounds. Now, if it's 1,000 pounds, right, the 10% is 100, so now it's a 50-pound jump. 1,200 pounds, it's... So you have to kind of, as you were kind of alluding to, figure out the percentages that work for you while understanding the weights. You know, the weight percent difference. You see, if you had a program of somebody that's 1,000-pound squatter and you're going to jump 10% per week,
you burn out quick.
How the fuck, you know?
Right. So 100%. So I only run that for, it's 2 weeks. So week 1 is 75 and 80. Week 2 is 80 and 85. Then there's a week I just do accessory work, and then the following week that's the single. So it only gets put in there for that little bit. But I think like beforehand I would run into that where I did too much, right? Like I only squatted with a ton of accommodating resistance, never did any straight weight work, never did anything, just all singles, and just that didn't work. And then I went the other way with the percentages where it was like, all right, well, that didn't work, so I'm going to go straight up to percentages. And it was that. It was 6 weeks of like 10% jumps or whatever. Same thing. Got to the end, didn't work. So I was like, I got to find like there's got to be a balance in here somewhere, because I haven't found a correlation between accommodating resistance and bar weight that tells me how strong I am. And I haven't found a difference, just straight weight. I just get beat to hell trying to do that week after week after week. So I just kind of just basically like threw stuff at the wall until it stuck, and then figured out like, all right, well, if I start at 75% and end at 85% and then go into that, it's a gauge. It just tells me how strong I am.
There are 3 key factors that are holding your strength back, and in my opinion, the third is the most important. We have covered all these factors on the Table Talk podcast. The guests that I bring out, we're not looking for science-based, and we're not looking for bro science. What I'm looking for are the guests that can help you become stronger. When you look at each one of those camps, they all attribute the success to the people outside of their camps as being outliers. Well, in my opinion, over my 4 decades in the sport, I'm pretty well convinced we're all outliers because everything works for everybody for some period of time. When the focus is on one of these 3 things. First is the physical attribute. That's going to be the genetics, the biology, the recovery, the nutrition, the programming. This is generally where everybody wants to go first. Thus why you see such an overemphasis on program hopping, PEDs, nutrition, certain critical, minute gray areas of all these factors. That's why it's clickbaitable, because this is where everybody wants to go first, but I don't think it's the most important. The second, the mental attributes. This is the psychology that's associated with training, the mindset, the motivation, the focus, not just to the point of how you prepare yourself before a big lift, but how you're preparing your day, how you're preparing your life. Again, if you've been following the Table Talk podcast, you're going to see that these are all reoccurring topics that keep coming up and up. But the most important one is next. To me, the most important aspect is the technical aspect. The technical aspect is how you take all these attributes and you put them together, and it's also the technical aspects of how you perform each and every one of those lifts. The reason why I say this is the most important is because it's the last place anybody wants to look if their strength isn't progressing. For instance, how many times have you heard people ask, what exercise do I need to do to make my bench bigger? What exercise do I need to do to make my quads bigger? What kind of diet should I do to be able to bulk up or to get leaner? How often do you hear somebody say, what's the best way to put all these variables together? What's the best way to perform an exercise for the outcomes that I'm looking for? This is why we've set up the crew. With the crew, we have 3 tiers. The first tier is just if you want to help support the podcast. We appreciate the support. If it wasn't for your support, we wouldn't have a Table Talk podcast. So tier 1 will give you badges, which I guess are like a popular thing. I don't know, but we appreciate the support and we could use the support. The second tier gives you ad-free podcast, an extra AMA podcast, plus all the fun badges. The third tier is our full Discord crew membership. This is where you'll have access to the community of like-minded individuals that are focusing on pushing their strength to the next level. You'll also have access to webinars, extra content, AMAs, ebooks, programs. There's so much in there, it's hard for me to list everything. And if I did, this video would go too long. Whether you want to just support the podcast or have extra content or have a deeper connection and take your training to the next level, we have a tier for you. Click the join button.
But like for you, it's, let's say 1,000 pounds plus 240 in chain weight. You know, it's like 4-to-1 ratio. That works for you. For someone else,
Right.
it might be 3-to-1 or 5-to-1 or whatever. But again, until you do that work over here, where like that doesn't work, that kind of worked. Let's go down that route a little bit. Where you're never going to know.
Right. I just think that ties back into too. Like, I was just people. If you just experiment with your training just a little bit and be okay with it not working, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. Like, just
No, it's totally not. You have to learn from that failure. I mean, I don't know anybody. I mean, me. I know I learn more from failure than I do any of my successes. But I've always had success follow failure.
Right.
Always.
You can carry that over in real life too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So go into how you've kind of figured out how to regulate your training.
I mean, I definitely do a raw conjugate style of programming. Definitely, I mean, everything. I walk into the gym always in prep. There's always intent to every single day that I walk in. Usually, and I'm very heavily percentage based on my programming. Usually making 2.5% jumps every week when I lay out the prep. Whether it's usually somewhere it's 20 to 25% of chain or band weight,
right,
and then a lot of straight weight on that. I've found that I can beat myself to shit with a lot of volume. My accessory work is extremely high. You know, I'll go in mostly doing start of a prep, no more than triples or fours around the 75% range. I guess I kind of have to go back and say, you know, so about 1.5 years ago, I got fired from my coach. And so I just started actually doing my own preps. I got very, very comfortable under somebody else's program and did that for 5-6 years, and it worked. There was a degree of success, but I really started just stagnating. Some of my lifts were making no progress. I was competing and hitting right around the same totals every time. Coming in going 6 for 9, 7 for 9, maybe a 10-pound PR on total, or maybe like 30 pounds less. I think getting fired was the best thing to probably happen to me, and that was the start of that. From failure to success. I had to branch out.
How were you training at that time?
It was still it was a raw conjugate.
Yeah.
It was still, but it was somebody else's version. Yeah. Very minimal deadlifts. I was deadlifting maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks. I deadlift twice a week now. A lot of focus on squat and bench, but more hypertrophy phases. I train heavy. I train heavier now. I push myself up to the higher percentages to keep myself accustomed to that, because I think for a long time too, we were having to address stability issues, grip issues. There was a lot of just basic, fundamental stuff. If you can't grip a bar, you can't deadlift. If you don't have core strength and you're unstable in squat, you're not going to squat. So there was a lot of time dealing with weaknesses. So I was fortunate that when I was put out on my own, that most of that had been addressed. I still had to obviously dial in more.
Yeah. So then when you went out on your own, why not find another coach instead of just trying to figure it out yourself?
I looked. I looked. It was actually advised to me by other coaches within the sport to take some time and even by my coach to got rid of me. Take a year, coach yourself, learn your programming, figure out more about yourself. I learned a lot about myself.
What did you learn?
That I didn't know shit. that I thought I was
same, man. Same.
That I really know that I didn't know shit. That I needed to truly be humbled.
Yeah.
It changed my outlook on things.
What do you mean by you didn't know shit? I mean, elaborate.
I thought like, okay, I need to lift heavy, and these are the numbers, and this is why. I didn't understand though how to avoid, 6 weeks in, all of a sudden frying my CNS, really overdoing it. That what I did, because I had at the same time was programming also for another lifter. When I got let go, another lifter was let go, and I was programming for him. And I just approached, I was like, oh, well, we'll just do the same thing. It'll be fine. And I mean, I had to change a few things up for him, but it was, I had to look at him and be like, no, it's going to be totally different. We both do a raw conjugate, but it's going to be totally different for you than it is for me.
What are some of the other things that you figured out?
If I think it was more outside of getting my priorities right. I would walk into the gym in prep. I would come into the gym sometimes, just an asshole, just bad mood, everything mad. The gym. I was letting that day's training dictate my whole outlook on the day. If I had a shitty lift, then everything fucking sucked. Everything did. My life, my time with my kids sucked. My job sucked. Everything sucked. I needed to kind of reevaluate my priorities and how I looked at things. I want to say, obviously, lifting is my life. Next to being a father, lifting is my life. But I needed to kind of reorder and restructure that outlook. And once I did, everything flourished. Everything grew. I was in a much healthier state mentally, emotionally. I was able to. I didn't have bad days at the gym. I might have had some bad lifts. I didn't have bad days at the gym. Then my prep started getting better, and I continually was going. And I went through in that time. My first meet programming myself was my best meet to that point. Lifts, total, everything. Turn around, get ready to program myself for a second meet, which was a Pro-Am in Chicago, and I had my first bomb out. Didn't expect. I had a great prep. Walked in super confident. I'm pretty much probably cocky at that point. Had my first bomb out. At that point, eight years in the sport. That was my 10th full power meet. First bomb out. was really frustrated at first. I remember just for a few days, really frustrated, confused, didn't know exactly what to think. Questioned a lot of things, doubted myself a lot, but started talking with a few people within it. I was talking to Tom. I was talking to Trevor Jaffe and a few other, talking to my wife. And it was just told, this shit happens. At this point, if you're in the sport long enough, it's going to happen, and it better happen. It should. It should happen. And I realized I was going to learn something from it. I wasn't, and that was what was different. I bombed out, and I came home, and I wasn't an asshole to my kids. I wasn't taking things personally. I knew I needed to, it was another challenge. It was another challenge I had to come back from. So I guess that's...
I mean, we spoke before we went live a little bit about how there is such thing as being too all in, perhaps.
Without a doubt, absolutely.
Where if lifting is too much of your outlook on life, like Dave, you've alluded to plenty of times, where like you're probably going to have more poor sessions than great. If your sessions and how your lifting is going to take your entire life, you're going to be a pretty miserable asshole most of the time.
All of it, yeah.
And you probably, because of that, how long are you going to last?
Yeah.
You won't.
You're all talking here with a decade plus under your belt or whatever. Are you going to last 10 plus years, which is long enough to actually get good? If every time you have a bad workout, you throw your toys out the pram, you're a shitty father or whatever it is? Or do you need to find a way of going, whilst it's important, it is just lifting?
I think it needs to be, I'll use myself as a prime example, but I believe all of us, everyone at this table has been there, where it has become the end-all, be-all of your life, where everything, as we said, revolves around it. I've come to understand it as a priority. I love this passionately. I don't know how to not do it, nor would I want to never stop lifting. However, that doesn't dictate my home life, my personal life. It's not my therapy. It's my hobby that I enjoy indefinitely. I don't know how to explain how much I love this. I just do. And I will pour everything into it, but it's not going to dictate how I go home to my wife and my kid, or if I have a good day or not. You just chalk it up to, hey man, that's how life goes. Do you have bad days in life that you have no control of at your job, at home? Absolutely. Why does the gym have to be any different? It doesn't.
I mean, someone said, I can't remember who it was who said this to me, but I liked it, is that if you come home from the gym and your partner knows whether you had a good or a bad workout, you've done your shit wrong.
Yeah.
Because they shouldn't be able, because you should be the same regardless, if you know what I mean. Like, and that doesn't mean you're not all in. It just means you know how to compartmentalize shit, and you've got more things in your life than just lifting. Right. You know.
Well, it's an interesting concept, because if there's one thing that I've learned since having all the lifters out on the podcast, is the all-in concept is flawed. Right? Because if you look back to the times you thought that you were all in, you were all in conveniently on the things that you wanted to be all in on.
Yeah.
But you weren't all in on the things that you know you should be all in on now. And that's the difference between a good lifter and a great lifter.
Yeah. Oh, I totally. I mean, look at somebody that can handle, that can handle your 9-to-5 job. That can handle the stress. If you have kids, handle. I've got 2 girls. Handle their extracurricular activities. At 13 and 14, handle 2 girls. And then also at the same time, be able to excel in this sport that we love. Not just, skate by. Be able to excel, be a part of the sport. Improve yourself, get stronger. But then also, you're working with other people. You're helping them in the sport too. I think that's the all in. I mean, it's that's what's crazy to say, is this is my life. Lifting is my life. But to be able to say, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
Well, I think the issue is people try to compartmentalize things. Like, my marriage is here, my work's here, training here, and it's like lifting's my life, or my family's my life, or work's my life. The fact is, all of that is your life. So there really is no such thing as balance, right? So the balance is figuring out how to synergistically make all that work, such as, the shift work is kicking your ass, so you go in and maybe you move the training a different day. Right. So everything still gets done, but how you shift and move them determines what the outcome of all of them are going to be. When you try to segment them, into these different blocks and categories, it's never working. Then you become, different avatars of your own self. This is my lifting avatar. This is my work avatar. This is my husband avatar. This is my father avatar. It's still you, right? So figuring out how to make you apply to all those is that secret. And that may be the answer to the auto-regulation as well, because it plays a role into that.
In life and the gym.
So with auto-regulation, how did you go about figuring out that for yourself?
Oh man, that is, I think it's, how to say it properly, it's duly applicable for life and gym for me, because when I figure out how to regulate my life and gym, you have to, of course, like we discussed, men and anyone in lifting, you need to grow through rejection, failure, losses, bomb outs. They all make you better if you're willing to learn from it. If you're not willing to take the adversity head on and deal with it, the fuck out of it. You won't last long. No, it's a big deal. You will also be not successful in life, romantically, financially, or with your job. They carry over. Some of the best people I know who are, Sam Bird's a prime example, hyper successful outside of the gym and in lifting. The more you're a little bit put together outside of the gym, the better you'll be in the gym too, because it all synergizes to me. Once I got my life outside of the gym put together, and that wasn't the only thing I was trying to focus on, where I wasn't trying to leave work early to make sure I have a good session. I'm willing to put my work in the back burner to go train, but now I can't afford to eat good quality food to get better. They all come together. It's a fucking building block. If one thing's going bad in your life, it all will follow. So you have a bad day at work, you go to the gym with that pissed off attitude, and you try to put that in the bar, you're just going to have a bad day then.
Yep.
Take a second and peel back.
All right. So then the big question would go back to something that Jared said, that if he has a bad training day, the rest of the day is wrecked because of the negative emotional spiral that's going around in your head. Okay. Well, that negative emotional spiral can also be caused by work. It can also be caused by your relationship.
Yes.
It can be caused by other things. Well, that will then affect the training. So the question would be, how do you stop that emotional negative spiral? Right?
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
I could. There were times that with my ex, I'd be walking into the gym, my phone would go off, and it'd be the girl's mom, and I'd be stuck on the phone. Greatest move, ready to lift, ready to bench or whatever. Get on the phone with the girl's mom for 20 minutes. We argue. Everything's ruined. I think it is being able to identify where you have to be honest with yourself. I can't control the attitude of my ex.
But if you're in that spiral, how's that happen?
How do you pull yourself out of that?
Yes.
You calm the fuck down. Me personally, I am very. I'll hair trigger. I know that I can instantly react, and it's one of those things where later I have to be like, I'm sorry, I was an idiot. I have to slow down. I have to stop, slow down. Try to take myself out of whatever's in front of me pissing me off at the moment, and look at the big picture. Because that's ultimately what it is, to me anyway. It's the big picture. How does it all tie in together? It's hard. It is hard to, especially when it's the things that, if there's certain things I think in my life that can push my buttons. There's not a lot, but there are certain things that know how to push my buttons. And it was figuring out how to, I don't know. I guess what would push my buttons in the end wasn't that big of a deal. You know what I mean?
Well, I heard somebody one time explain that if you're talking about a trigger, right, and you relate that to a gun, it's a very small part of the overall gun, right? So as soon as you realize that the trigger is the small part of the entire object, right, then it can help conceptualize that.
For me, I'd always look at this, because I've gotten much better as I've gotten older at being a little bit more calm. And when I approach a situation where something upsets me or I get frustrated, I always take a moment to peel back. Is this going to fucking matter in a year or next week? It doesn't. I take a moment to be appreciative and grateful. If I can be upset because someone pissed me off in the gym, I'm doing phenomenal. Life is awesome. I still get to go home to my tiny little house in the country with my wife. I'm great. For me, it's just started to counter it and just take a moment to be grateful that I get to go into a gym and lift. I get to be appreciative that I get to be mad about something that doesn't matter. Somebody pissed me off at work, or I had to work late. It is what it is. I'll just train tomorrow, man. What can I do? It's cool, man. No big deal.
It's just one day.
It's just one day, man. And when I also started realizing that I don't have to stick to certain times, certain schedules of lifting, and that really clicked, it's indifferent to me. It's fine. I can miss Tuesday and go Wednesday, and I will be okay if I go lift Saturday. That's fucking cool, dude. It's not that big a deal. A great thing that you've always said is, like, when you start taking a little bit of the sauce. You want to pin it this time, this day, or and then you go on. It's happened to me where I forget to take a shot for a couple of days. I'm like, fuck, it's fine. It's no big deal. It's not gonna matter.
Yep.
It'll be cool. And I just think that's something that's learned over time for people differently. But the way I've always taken it is because I've had nothing my entire life. I see it as a luxury problem to be upset about something that is so irrelevant that I'm upset about it, and it usually just brings me back down.
Your thoughts?
I mean, an analogy I saw recently, which I quite like, was just take the anagram rain. So, like, first, R would be to recognize, like, first off, if you're in that negative spiral, you have to recognize you're in a negative spiral, you can't do shit about it. And ideally, you would get to the scenario where you can recognize that you're doing it, or it might take your significant other or someone else to slap you around the head and go, you're being an asshole, whatever. Then A would be acknowledge what it is, like, what is the trigger that has caused this negative spiral, accept that, okay, this has led to this, and then I would be then investigate or introspect, like, why has this individual thing really caused this response? Like, is it this actual thing, or like you said, is the trigger just the last domino or whatever that's caused this reaction, which is usually the case. And when you realize that, oh, the thing that I actually blew up about isn't the thing I blew up about, it's X, Y, and Z that happened in the days before. And then N would stands for, it's a poor term, but they say non-association, which is take the emotions that you're feeling, and they are not you, they are not your character, they are just your emotional response to something, and to try to acknowledge that it's happened, but then distance yourself from it and say, okay, well, it's happened. I felt the way I felt. I don't have to feel that way forever, though.
You don't have to react to it
that
either.
it's a reaction, by definition, is temporary.
Yes.
And happens at the time. That doesn't mean I need to stay that way. So I can say, okay, I got pissed off. Maybe it was justified. Maybe I can stop that happening in the future, though. Okay, put that away. That I can learn from that. Now it is time to go on with my day. And I think whether that specific process actually does anything or means anything to you is almost irrelevant, I think. But just having something like that, which makes you just fucking stop.
You have to have an off switch.
Actually, what is going on here? Just rather than just carrying on and going about your day, and just take a minute with yourself and go, why am I reacting this way? Why am I behaving? Why does this thing bother me? Like, someone cuts you up on the highway. That shouldn't piss you off. Like, did anything change?
No.
Does anything meaningful in your life change? No. So why am I? And then I think it's just whatever process works for you that just makes you stop and analyze just a little bit is the path to getting out of that. Because otherwise, without getting too philosophical, you can either go down a path where you just kind of let your emotions rule you, or you can get to the point where you acknowledge them but don't get ruled by them and allow them to kind of pass by. And I think, again, that's just one of those things that we're talking about it in the context of the gym, but in reality, where is that not useful?
It's life.
Is it reactive or acknowledgement of it? Pick your path. Reactive is probably going to make everything so much worse. Acknowledge it, move on.
And I would argue the gym is probably the better place to learn that, because I don't have children, but those of you that do, that with your children is probably a really shitty place to go through that process of emotional maturity, right? Because you're going to end up hurting people that you love. You're going to be not going to be a great role model. If you can do that in the gym when you're a teenager and you're young, early 20s, whatever, then you can take that maturity into the other aspects of your life. This is probably the best place, the safest place also to learn.
Because the repercussions of it aren't going to be horrendous.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a difference between with your kids. My example, my whole ideology of raising my kid is I want her to be able to learn on her own and figure it out. I'll let you fall and scrape your knees, no problem. Learn from it. I'll let you fall and hit your face a little bit. I'm not going to let you break a nose or break your bone. I would rather be hard on you, and it comes from someone who loves you and cares you, because when you get out in the world, no one's going to give a flying fuck how you feel about it. I'd rather have some hard love than someone else give you something a little bit worse than that in the real world. I'm going to let you know that, hey, you really fucked up. This is terrible, and this is why I'm talking to you about this. This is why I would recommend not doing this. This is the consequences of it. You need to be a little more accountable. Just look at what you're doing. Take a second, think about it. Is this going to be worth it? Don't be so reactive. Versus, for an example, in my line of work in civil construction, I have young kids all the time who've been coddled. They get told no, they're not used to that, or that they're not the priority for the day, or if they're late every day for a week, and then the last day, I'm only like 10 minutes late today. It doesn't matter. That's not how it works. You don't get to keep your job because I have to let you go because you're not responsible. You don't hold yourself accountable. And they have a meltdown about it. Then they're going to carry that on. If they carry that way for the next 10 years, they'll get nowhere.
True. And I think then that whole process as well, again, is helped by lifting can't be your everything.
It can't.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
so like if that bad lifting session is the end of the world if lifting is all you've got, right? If you've got a good social circle, you've got hobbies, you've got a job that you find fulfilling, you know, whatever it is, families, all these stuff. Of
course.
All of a sudden it's like, well, you know, okay, that's a little bit shitty, but all this other stuff over here is still good. Whereas, and you know, I'm speaking of this maybe as a coach, whereas you can maybe talk of it personally or with training partners, but the people who are so unimodal, as in the bodybuilders or the powerlifters, when they're in prep, they're the hardest people to deal with because they have nothing to. The bodybuilder in prep who has nothing else going on is sat there watching the clock for their next meal. The diet for them is absolutely excruciating. Yeah, the bodybuilder who's got 2 young daughters running around, maybe, who's playing and having fun, is like, oh, I missed a meal by half an hour because I was too preoccupied.
Over.
It's like, well, that's a much better position to be in than the guy who's just sat around going, man, I'm hungry, man, and the same with the powerlifter. 90% felt like 95% today. Oh, the world's fucking ending.
I can't do this prep.
Yeah.
On your belt. Oh, it's not going to happen. Well, I've got an analogy for it. I want your feedback on this. Someone explained it to me like this. Your world is your solar system. You are the sun of your existence. And the worlds around you are a part of you, but they're not everything about you. They're important to you, but it's not everything. You know, the first will probably be your family, then friends, and your hobbies and stuff. At different times, at different days, that's when they're most important, when they're vital to you. But altogether, they come and make you you. They can't just be one. It'll never work.
No, that's a great analogy. And I think, again, that is something that I think is easy to get. We're all kind of talking here like 10 years into lifting or whatever, but I would love that to be bestowed upon people who are just getting into it, whether they're teenagers or whatever. Like, Ron, you talked about like having world's strongest man as like your kind of role model, and I think that's really important. I think that's maybe getting lost a little bit. I don't think people are looking up to strength in an idyllic way like maybe they used to, and I think it's important and they should. But also it's important to have maybe role models and other aspirations that are going to shape you as a man or a person or whatever as well. Like being strong is important, but being well-rounded is also extremely important. You know, and you don't just get that from the gym only.
No, without a doubt. It's,
I think it's a control thing. I know I'm a control freak. Here we are in a sport where whether you're a coach or you're coaching yourself, you have a program, you have a schedule that's laid out in front of you telling you, you're doing this, 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 and this today. Here's this. Life, especially with work, kids, or whatever, life is not that way. No. Life is like, guess what, motherfucker, surprise. You might be halfway through your lift and all of a sudden your kid's sick, you got to go to school and pick it up. I know early on in the sport that would throw me off. I'd be pissed, irritated. I'd take things personally. The world's out to get me. I'm in prep for the biggest meet of my life. Some power weekends, things that nobody knew everybody forgot the following week. But to me, that was the biggest thing in the world. I think it's finally and it is. I think you are right. That most lifters, once they're 8, 9, 10, 11 years in the sport, there's a realization and kind of a shift in that view. I wish more saw that at an earlier age, or that was passed on or taught, because I think that would help avoid a lot of undue stress, family fights, arguments. I mean, probably just lead to maybe some overall lower blood pressures and. I mean, you said it. I'm that way. I told my wife, "Oh shit, I was supposed to pin yesterday."
Yeah, like I'll be all right.
I'll be okay. I'll be all right. Just here, you stick me real quick. You gotta.
It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to bed.
Hey, before we go to, just stick me real quick. Okay.
Do you think some of it comes down to people overemphasizing the importance of a single workout? So what I mean by you take Rodney's example of, you said it was 7 or 8 years to go from like $1,000 to 1,200, right?
Right.
So that's 400 weeks to put on 200 pounds. That's half a pound a week. If you look at it like that, having a shitty squat workout 1 week is okay. I didn't gain the half pound,
right?
Or the 100 grams or what. Like if you look at it like that, and this is when people watch this, gonna be like, this is the least hardcore fucking podcast ever. They're telling us not to.
No, but I mean that is the hardest fucking thing to conceptualize, because when you're in that day, it's that day, and that's all that fucking exists. Because the future's over, you can't relive it, and you're not guaranteed the present, right? So you have these conflicting fucking philosophies that like, well, shit, if it's going to take 5 years, I might be dead next week. I want to fucking lift. You know, so it's a tough thing.
Oh,
You
it
know,
is for sure.
It's a
But
tough thing.
we know that you can't will it to happen faster. Like,
Oh, you think you can?
Oh, of course you can. Yeah, but you know that, and I think that's a big reason why maybe people get so heated and you know struggle so much with those individual battles. It's like, dude, that's your half a pound on squat this week. Don't worry about it. Maybe you'll have a great bench workout and that will do you know what I mean? Like over the long enough time frame, it's all gonna fucking
And I
work
think
out.
it's
They
the
just
key.
keep showing up.
They've got no point of reference to understand that. Listen, man, I'm trying to tell you, you're not going to listen. It doesn't fucking matter if today's a bad workout. Next week will be great. It's cool, man. But for them, because at that time, maybe that's their most prioritized thing, and the only thing that they have. So that's what matters the most.
Yeah.
So outside of that mental framework, what are the other things that people need to think about in regards to longevity in sport?
Hold back.
No, go ahead.
Hold back a little bit. You don't have to keep one in the tank. Would be my biggest thing. Don't fail in the gym. That's just get confident in the bar and always hold a little bit back. You don't have to give max effort. Doesn't have to be 100% max effort. I'm always big on leaving another rep in the tank. That's just for me. I think longevity wise, not having to truly go to failure every time. There's a time and place for it. I don't think once a month is time for it, because then you get used to failing. It's okay. It's accepted.
However, that contradicts what we were saying earlier, that the only way you're going to really learn how to auto-regulate is if you beat your ass into the ground.
And I can say, you're totally fair. I'm saying it now because I've gone through it and I know that now. But me 8 years ago would never listen. Fuck you, I'm going to max out all the time. That's how I'll get better. So it's...
Same. I mean, I was that guy with max effort work.
Yeah,
Like,
same.
if I could put a 2.5 on the bar, I was doing it.
I'm doing it, yeah. Or I'll miss it. Give me a second. I'll go again. I
Right.
know I can get it. Let me just get more mad. And
Whereas
I'll get
now, almost every... I mean, right now I'm in the off season, if you will. I'm probably not going to do a meet again until next September, but it's just max effort work. I just go in there and strain. Who gives a shit? I don't even look at the logbook sometimes. I mean, unless I know that I'm close, I might open it up and be like, oh shit, I can do that. I can get it now, but because of that, I learned in the long run, it doesn't matter. What matters is like when I get back into meet prep, like those numbers matter.
Yes.
But
So the question there would be then, is that a consequence of just having 10 to 15 years of training experience under your belt that you can't get away with it anymore, versus being younger and having 3 years of training experience and being 21 years old, but can get away with
I've got a
it
prime
and still
example.
recover?
We got a kid now, 21 years old, incredibly strong, doesn't believe in warming up. Comes in on squat day, 30 minutes late. I got 500 on the bar. I'll put my briefs on. Comes in, put briefs on, hit 700, hit 900, maybe $1,000. That's it. It's like warming up stupid. I don't need to do it. You're going to get hurt. You're going to break down. Hell, am I? It's working fine. I'm getting stronger each week.
Well, the question would be,
Maybe.
I mean, I can steel man that and say, is he?
It's exactly. He's rolling the dice.
So it goes back to that question: that is it the accumulated wear and tear that brings that realization as to why that needs to be done, or does it? In other words, does that have to be done at the younger age, or should it?
I think it depends on the person. Yeah. If they're going to actually listen to you, like that's another part. Is those training partners. Like, if there's those people in there that want to do dumb shit, feel free. Do dumb shit. I'm not going to let you kill yourself. But
Right.
I'm only going to talk to you so much. Right?
Exactly.
If you don't want to listen, Carlos is the same way. Fine, man. You don't want to listen. We're not going to let you hurt yourself.
He's not
because
wrong.
that's dumb.
That's the thing.
But yeah, man, fuck it, dude. You want to max out 4 times? Fucking feel free. You'll learn. You'll figure it out. Or you know what? Maybe you are different, man. I don't know. Maybe you are fucking different. Maybe you do come in here. You're the one of one that just doesn't get messed up. I don't know.
I'm dealing with that right now. I've actually got another adaptive, another short guy. Younger. I'm 44. He's 23. Strong guy. The kid's really ridiculously strong, but maxes out every week. Comes in and does his lifts just so he can get on Instagram and get the likes for it. And we'll say that. And I've tried to, tell him, hey, here, here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. And you're seeing it you're seeing it in the lifts. You're seeing, well, I've got to use more aids now. I can't hold on to stuff, so I have to use straps. Why? Because I'm fatigued. Right. Why are you fatigued? Or why haven't you deadlifted for, well, my hips out? Okay. Do you think maybe this constant work? Oh no, I'll be fine. You only tell them so much.
Right.
I mean, but I was the same way when I was younger, when I was that age. Max out. Yep, max my bench. I don't know. I guess it's a lesson that I think it's a lesson that 99% of everybody that comes through, if they're going to be in this sport long enough, that they learn. They usually learn the hard way.
I think I'd still stand upon just two things for me for long term with people. Just hold a little bit, keep one in the tank, and just walk more. And I think you'll be fine. That'd be my biggest advice, to keep it simple. That's the only thing I can see that's worked for me from my experience. Hold back a little bit. It's good, man. And just move more. Just walk a little bit more.
Ed always told me, save it for the platform. If you think it's Ed said, save it for the platform.
I think a key phrase. Sorry, Jared.
No, go ahead.
The key phrase that you used there, though, was "get away with," because we intrinsically know that it's not optimal. You're just not getting punished for it yet. So then the question becomes maybe not telling them what to do, but maybe get them to sit down and go, "Are you getting stronger because of what you're doing, or in spite of what you're doing?" You know, like Usain Bolt said, he pretty much lived on chicken nuggets, right? Or chicken McNuggets. Like, is he the world's fastest runner because of chicken McNuggets? Probably not. But he did it in spite of that. Yeah. So then you can maybe have that. Maybe that's how you broach that type of conversation. You know, like, okay, sure, you can do that, but is that really the driving force behind the progress you're seeing, or is it all this other stuff that maybe you don't think is important? You know, or the other side of me, the devil on my shoulder, wants to say, well, if you fuck up harder, you'll learn faster and get out of the way with. You know, like if you fuck up bad enough that you learn the lesson in 2 years rather than 5, are you better off?
I don't know. Both aren't wrong. Both aren't right. They both could. It's just.
Well, a lot of it's kind of what Rodney said is you have to understand who you're speaking with, right? Because if they're in a younger training age and they're younger biologically, you're going to have a different conversation than if they got 10 years under their belt and they're doing stupid shit. So you got to kind of pick your battles a little bit, because in a way they do get away with it, right? But that accumulated damage may not show up for, say, 8 years, but they might be fucking done in 4. Right. Yeah. So they won't know why their hips all jacked up when they're 45, right? Because they hadn't trained for 10 years, but they don't understand where that actually came from. So it's kind of picking the battles to where, if it's a younger lifter that's kind of getting away with everything, you know, I can sit back and just, it's cool. I mean, you mentioned it once, but it's not a big concern, because as long as they're not going to like absolutely kill themselves. It's like in your brain, I'm processing, sooner or later they're going to learn. You know, but it's not going to be today. Yeah. You know, it's not going to be this thing. At the same time, they should experiment, if they're in that phase, with different training protocols. You know, instead of being locked into one philosophy that they've been preached down on, and because they can get away with it, they can try completely different shit. I mean, they can try to squat heavy 4 times a week, or squat every day, or whatever it is at a certain age, and it helps to figure that all out. But that shit doesn't work if they got 10 years of accumulated damage with that. So again, it's a different conversation.
This goes back to, it depends on the person. It's a big variable. Huge variable person.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. And I mean, in the same token, I was trying to say this as well. There can be the younger people that have autoimmune issues and so forth, and it would have a problem immediately. And I don't think we're going to find the older guy with 15 years that's going to be able to get away. That would be a really big. That would be an outlier that I don't even know exists.
I haven't seen one yet.
Well, no, as I think if you last doing this that long, you'd have that, you figure that out. Like, I can't do it like this all the time, and I don't want to be hurt. It sucks.
Right. What quality of life do you want to have? Not
well,
only
you mentioned if they last that long, right? So that makes you tend to wonder at that, say, that 4-year, 5-year mark, maybe they quit because of stagnation or things that they love it, but they're just not progressing anymore. It's kind of where your total was. And at one point, my total wasn't going anywhere for 4 or 5 fucking years. And I wanted to quit. You know, I didn't want to quit. I thought I was just done. Yeah. Right. And it took a change of philosophy and all the other. So a lot of people may leave. Right. Because of that accumulated fatigue, trauma, not trauma, bad word.
Damage,
overuse, you know, boredom, lack of progress, and they've been so brainwashed into one dogma that they begin to feel that this is as far as my genetics can actually take me, right, and then leave. So that could be part of that longevity question, because when we talk about longevity, we're talking about decades,
Right.
And we're trying to insinuate that on somebody that may have 4 years, and maybe they get another 2, right? Who knows? But maybe they have 10. This is the caveat. Like maybe they have 10, but their best years are going to be 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Right.
But they stop at 5, realizing I think this is when it's all done, but not realizing that it is that the other 10. That can also parlay into people that will go on PEDs too soon. Right, if they go on too soon, there's only so long you're going to be able to get away, with blasting shit too, before it's going to go backwards. But if you exhaust that resource before you can actually hit that peak, there's 5 more years at the end that you could have actually far exceeded what you thought you could have done, but that got blown because you started 5 years sooner than what you actually should. So it kind of plays into that same thing. Those messages are the hardest to get through to people.
What do you see that more often now? Like in
Well, I don't know,
today,
right? Because it is more popular. We don't have enough years to know,
right?
But do I think that's what we're going to see? 1,000%, 1,000%. Because people are starting shit at 15.
Yeah.
There's
just
no
burn 'em
way.
right out.
No, who the fuck can blast shit from 15 until fucking 40? I'm sure there's. I might be one of, but anyhow, there's some, right? But I can still say those last 5 years aren't going to be as good as what they could have been, because all those gains could have been made in those earlier years, like people going on too soon now. Maybe, let's say they make 100% gains, in the first 5 years and they start at 15. I'm not going to say they're still going to make those 100% gains if they didn't use anything. But let's say it's 80%. But they get an additional 5 years in a peak age range between 25 and say 35.
Yep.
Right? That's really where you want to shine, if you're a strength athlete, because that's where most of that's really going to come out at its highest potential. Right? So that then will become, I'm just throwing fucking numbers, 40% higher than what it would have been otherwise. That I think I don't think we're going to see it, because I think they'll just quit.
Yeah.
Or get hurt.
Or there'll be health issues that arises. They'll get hurt. They'll burn themselves out and get frustrated.
Right.
Stops being easy. They've already taken off.
Right. It'll become too much.
Yeah.
It'll become too much hard work.
Yeah, I would think they're probably going to get hurt before the health issues are going to happen, because they're so young. I mean, who's going to blow their who's going to blow their organs out, blast and shit.
Your tendons and ligaments
happens,
can catch
right?
up.
But there's still this period of time, to where if you're taking shit for 30 years and you don't think that's going to have any impact on your heart, you're fucking sadly mistaken. There's going to be some impact on there. So, but they're not going to see the organ damage. Well, I don't want to say some will, right? Because they're not going to see that organ damage early on, right? Which leads to that false misconception of I can blast 8 grams a year all the time, because that worked when they were 20 or 22. And now they're 40.
Right.
And they're blasting 15 fucking grams and now figuring out why it doesn't work. Your thoughts.
Do you think a lot of that, again, though, comes down to, like, perspective of what a lifting career actually looks like? Like, the 15-year-old is going to be like, right, I want to hit squat 800 or whatever, and, like, in their head, that's going to happen in 3 years or 4 years. Probably not even that long, let's be honest. And to them, there's nothing beyond that. It's just a black hole, nothing, whatever. Doesn't matter, right? Whereas I think if people get into lifting with the pretense of this is almost like a lifelong commitment, like strength is a lifetime endeavor, then does that maybe change the whole outlook on when they start gear, how they approach it, if they are going to, obviously even the training as well, but trying to convince someone that young of that is obviously going to be difficult. But I think a lot of us lose sight of, it's cool to be jacked and strong. Not that I would know either, but it's cool to squat 1200 or whatever. But it's also really cool to be the granddad and the dad who can, outlift their kids and run around with their kids and not have a fucking sore back from everything. And I know that's going to be hard to distill in people early on, but the quality of life for you might be great in those first 5 years if you choose to do that, and lifting's very important to you and everything peaks really high, but what's your quality of life that comes after? Absolutely. Versus what's the average quality of life looking at it over a longer time frame and easing in and easing out?
I don't think they do, but I believe they should. In the way that I would try to articulate this would be the moment that they realize they love this, I mean, they're passionate about it, they love it, then treat it like you're getting married, right? Nobody gets married with the intent that this is going to be my first ex-wife, right? No, they get married with the intent that we're going to be together forever, right? So if they can say that, and they're saying, I love this shit, they're giving every emotional word associated with the same thing. So the day that they decide to marry it should be the day that they're also going to decide that this is going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life, the same way you would if you got married. That still doesn't mean that, I mean, divorces happen, shit happens, stuff like that happens. But that's how I think they should process and think about that, because then the perspective's going to change. The same way the perspective would change if you're just dating somebody, then you go into a marriage with it, and they should, with the intent that this is going to be forever. Then if it's forever, then all of a sudden you start thinking different. You know what I'm saying? You everything starts thinking different.
Now, I've got, from my experience, I brought the two young ones with me. I think, and also environment and the people you're around when you start is massively important. I think most of us, I know I was very fortunate to have people who've had a lot of longevity in it who instilled that on me. Hey, man, don't start the gear early. Take your prime years and do it naturally. Take those years where you can get the most out of the little, minimal effort in a sense. From, let's say, 18 to 27, very easy to get stronger, progress. The little things will matter. Just to eat a little bit cleaner. You can still eat shit in that time frame and still progress, but each year it gets smaller and smaller. And all you do when you start taking gear, you expand it back up, you balloon it, and it still sinks. Well, then now your 1 shot a week is now your base. That's where you've plateaued on that. And then they just think more is more. So for prime example, the two young ones I brought with me, they've been around 18 years now. One of them's 22, other one's 26, and they've just been consistent and progressed. They've been lucky to have us older guys who've been around it and made those fucking mistakes of doing all the dumb shit, taking too much, starting too early. I started at 22, like an idiot. Had that first cycle, was phenomenal. A lot of great progress. Hit the wall very quickly. And it took a couple years of peeling it back, dialing nutrition and rest and everything to be where I could have been naturally with not taking anything. So for me, I think also it's just environment and the influence and the people who are compared to kids at the commercial gym I train at, because Olympus is a commercial gym. We just have a powerlifting section. Seeing the kids who were influenced and raised on the people of TikTok, where the fuck it is nowadays, Instagram, these people are just, exclaiming, you got to blast all the gear. This is what you have to do. This is a part of the culture now that you need to do, is just take all of it, max out. And when it gets hard, just quit, Not knowing that you're going to hit a wall regardless of what you do at some point. And when it stops being easy and you've used all the tools to skip that, at some point what will go up will have to come down. And how do you deal with that? You quit. It's tough. It's not fun anymore. Like you said, you just get bored. It's not easy anymore. You're not hitting those progressive big jumps, big PRs that look cool on the Instagram. It's not, are you going to marry? Are you going to stay committed to it like a wife and continue to do this because you love it and you're willing to just get through the hard times as you would in a marriage? Or is it a girlfriend that when it's not fun anymore, the news wore off, you're just done with this and off to the next cool thing?
I mean, I do really like that analogy. And the other thing I would add to it, even if you can't convince someone from an injury, a longevity viewpoint or whatever, and I don't want to speak on your behalf, but like for me, and I know for many others, like the gym is a huge coping mechanism, mental health tool, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to know what it's like to not be able to work hard in the gym. Yep. I don't want to know where that puts me. And like for you, Dave, like, I'm sure you said the same. So like, even if you look at it from that viewpoint, it's like, hey, like the gym is maybe an escape and a relief for you right now, but imagine if you train in a way that gets taken away from you.
I want to know what to do.
Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? So like that would be kind of that's a way I look at it personally. I found a way that it helped change my perspective on what I do weekly. Like, sure, you can train like an asshole, but if you're injured for 6 months or you have to just stop training entirely when you're 35, 40, whatever.
What are you going to do?
Then what?
I think that somewhat ties back into what we were talking to earlier about looking at life as a whole thing. because I would also tell them that they need something other than the gym as well. Because of that fact. Like, what if you couldn't do this anymore? Like, what if you got in a car wreck tomorrow and they had to cut your fucking legs off and you couldn't lift weights anymore? What are you going to do then? What do you have? And that comes back to, like, having other stuff to do, which makes this better as well. You know what I mean? I just think,
for sure.
I look at it too from the other side of things. I don't want to get too much into, like, with the fire department shit, but, like, that's a huge thing there. Like, you'll get guys that'll ride fire trucks for 40 years, and then they get told they have to retire, and they've based their entire life off of being a fireman. And now, all of a sudden, you're not a fireman anymore. And they have zero hobbies. They have zero interests. They're on their third divorce. Their kids hate them because they realized early on that, like, the fire department meant more than anything to them, and they have nothing.
Sure.
So I don't know. I just think it's kind of the same deal. Like, I get I'm the same. Like, I don't want to know what it's like to not be in the gym and lift weights, but also, like, if that was taken away from me, like, I have other stuff I could go do.
And do you think then, in some respects, then that almost changes what your definition of strength is? Like, yes, we can all appreciate strength is X amount of weight on the bar lifted, but you mentioned what it's like training consistently and intently whilst juggling all these other things that life throws at you. Like, to me, that is strength. You know, like the ability to still perform at whatever a high level is for you, which is going to be different for everyone, whilst being a good dad, having a good career, whatever, being a good person all round. If we looked at strength like that, like being a strong person as opposed to a person who is strong in the gym, maybe then that starts to shift your perspective on, like, this is just a piece of the puzzle where I maybe learn the lessons quicker that I can apply outside to become a better and stronger person in all those other facets of my life.
I would say, have all of you learned valuable lessons in the gym that have highly transferred over in life?
Oh,
I have tremendously. So
and I don't want to know what mistakes I would have had to make outside the gym to learn them in other aspects. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm glad I learned them in the gym as opposed to elsewhere.
I'd be 6 feet under.
Yeah.
Like 7 years ago.
I'd be locked up. The mistakes I was learning outside of the gym had me locked up.
Well, it still comes down to being a biopsychosocial model.
Yeah.
You know, if you had a Venn diagram, you know, where all those would cross is where the performance is going to be the highest, right? So if you don't have friends outside the gym or hobbies or whatever it's going to be, you're going to be lacking in some regard, and it's going to affect your performance in the gym. If you don't have the biology to be able to be the highest performer, then all those interact and play together, which goes back to when I was saying you can't compartmentalize these things because they all are fused, you know, together with that. With this being serious so far, I'm going to flip the script here a little bit. And
All right, here we go.
Throw in a stupid fucking question just to get this going. What's the worst workout song that you could think of?
Oh, easy. Anything country.
That's the total fucking opposite for me. You stop that. Every Sunday we listen to country banger, son. Outlaw 90s. Dude, I hate
That's why you only weigh 256 and squat less than 9.
Dude, there's a lot of the new rap.
You know what?
Cannot. No.
This motherfucker today.
Or the Macarena.
We were having my whole thing tomorrow is I want to stay within a plate of what he's doing, and I get
Hope
breakfast.
the odds are in your favor.
He's like, "Look, man, that's not enough food."
That just goes against everything we were just fucking talking about.
Well, it's not
Everything, right? Does it not?
You said flip the plate.
I know.
What do you want from
You
me
can talk the talk, but you can't walk the fucking walk, right?
All right, stack them. Yeah, fucking stack them. Are you guys wearing your suits? Do you guys in gear tomorrow?
There's only 2 things I do raw. That's sex and sushi. I don't do anything else raw. That lift and raw shit, y'all can have it. I'm good. Fuck all that mess. No,
Raw dog. I'll
raw dog and
tomorrow, I guess.
Raw dog in life, and that's about it.
Yeah. What's been your nickname in the gym?
Bulldog, because I am a short, wide, angry, yelling thing. It is tradition. Every weekend I come in and bitch for about 20 minutes, and then I have a good day. Every time.
Yeah, what do you bitch about?
Everything. Anything and everything.
We've discovered this very quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah, like, what? Like, I'm not fucking doing that. No. What the fuck's my bar at? What are you guys doing? Or just anything and everything. This motherfucker I was coming to the gym, cut in front of me. Dude, I will just play your hate and bitch about anything.
Didn't we just say that that's not a good thing either?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
Exactly. We flipped the script. We're on to the...
Yeah, well, I know that. I know that, right? And so...
Yeah. I just complain about done stuff. It's like, why... What the fuck are you guys doing? Why are the mats underneath the bench? If my short ass can reach the ground, get the fucking mats out of here. We're not doing 35s. I said my.
I put my box. No, I put my boxes away. I don't
No,
have
but I mean, they say that to him.
Yeah.
No, he didn't train with us though.
Oh,
But if he did,
did.
he
he's
did.
irrelevant.
Use
He's
the
fucking
boxes.
4'6", and you're gonna tell him to stretch his legs down to the fucking floor?
touch that floor.
You can use boxes. I said mats, no mats.
Just take more.
Oh,
throws.
so fucking boxes are okay that are 4 inches tall.
We're talking
but
specifics
mats
here.
aren't?
Oh no, my boxes are like 14, 15, 16. My boxes are built like a brick
The
shit house.
boxes in there are basically
I've
the
got
same
them
height
in
as
the, I've got 'em in the Jeep. I'll bring them in
They're
here.
the same height as the
I'll
bench,
bring them to
basically.
fucking
You know,
here.
that does make me, and this is something I've always wondered with powerlifting in general. You can adjust the rack height on the bench for longer lifters, right?
Yeah.
But you can't adjust the bench height. Except for
Yeah,
him,
yeah.
but if somebody's got,
Yep.
you know, from their knee to their foot is like 30 inches,
Yep.
they're forced to like put their feet way out in front of
Yeah,
them.
It's the guys who are taller than me I'm making fun of. Like, if I can touch the ground, why do you guys need 3 mats underneath to even it out?
Yeah, but they could come back to you and say, why do we need to adjust our rack height, which would you couldn't even reach the bar on.
Well,
Yeah,
to be
man.
fair, I've a couple of times I'll take like 4 holes out, like just drop it in my hands. Like, why are you guys like?
Oh, I hate that. I have to have that shit happen to me sometimes, depending on where. I
have-
hate that.
I have such a
Hands up,
disdain
just
for
dropping
bench.
So how does I mean? Is that how they manage that?
If
Because that's going to be the case most of the time, right?
No, luckily, most of the meets that I've done are usually they're still using like a combo, so I can use the squat, or not the squat, but
Yeah.
the lower hooks. There's a few APF meets I was in, use the old like Forza.
Yeah.
I call them the upright. They look like goal posts. That sucked because that was it was all right. We're just gonna have to drop it down into your hands because I mean I'm still.
No, would they let you bring your own lift off person in that case?
Yeah, I had my own handoff person at least. Or I mean, the spotting crews were pretty damn good. They were pretty.
Well,
good.
I mean, it can help because they're not going to drop it on you. 'cause
yeah,
they've been
but
doing
there
it
was
before.
yeah, there was some. Yep. I'm not shitting.
You ever seen Jeremy when he was at Westside? He would have been. They would do that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I would judge him.
I'd watch
Oh, dude,
Jeremy's
it's
stuff and be like,
fucking-
"What are you guys doing?"
Dude, I'm like, what? Oh man, because he couldn't reach it, so they'd have to bring it out to him.
Yep.
And then he goes.
Yeah.
And you don't know when the full lockout is
You
because
don't.
everyone's on top of him. Because if it goes, it can go bad. That
Where
is a
they-
tricky spot to be,
Especially
brother.
with him
Oh,
wearing
my God.
gear. Yeah,
In
especially with
shirts,
him wearing
too?
gear.
Oh.
Yeah, that was. There were times I was watching.
It's not
Yeah.
very cash money of a situation.
Yeah. What were some other fucked up situations you found yourself in?
Oh, dude.
Have you ever had a monolift not go low enough?
Oh, well, I've got a platform for the mono in the Jeep. I built up a. That's 50-50. Most of the monos don't go well, and also, if I can reach them, by the time I'm up to my second or third attempt, I'm so compressed that the hooks are skirting the bar. Most fucked up was a USPA meet that I did in Kentucky. Walking it out. It was in a hot box gym. So they had like icebox fans blowing. So there was mist on the bar, and there was the mats. They didn't have the mats secured down or anything. So there was a big run in the mat. So I took a step back, had a shitty pick. The pick was on me, but the bar started rolling. I had 485 on it, and I just yelled, "Hey, the bar's going!" And you see in video, all the spotters jump out of the way. They hands up and jump out of the way. So I took that down to the floor and felt 3 pops on my back as a butt buster, and laid on the floor for a second and kind of yelled, "What the fuck?"
Wow.
Yeah, but I think I was telling you.
We were talking about,
yeah. So this is the one out of the 11 meets that I've done. This is the only one, and I don't know why, that I registered also bench only for. And so I tried to squat again. It just wasn't. Everything was seized up. I actually ended up fracturing my L1 and bulged my T12 out of that. But my coach goes, what do you want to do? I go, we drove 8 hours. We're going to do something. So I stayed in bench, and up to that point got it was a 352 bench, which was my best one for up until this just last meet. So yeah, but seeing spotters
Yeah.
jump back out of
What's
the
the
way.
most fucked up thing you've seen in meet?
God, I've seen so many. Oh my God, I've judged so many.
Pick any. Tell me
there's
8
no-
of them.
I think one of the. Oh man, let's see. I've seen women hit the ground with 300 pounds. I've also seen back spotters. A guy had 700 in a mono, and he missed it, and it crunched him. And the back spotter couldn't get him up, so they were both crunched over in the ground. And the side spotters weren't strong enough either to pick it up. So it took about 10 seconds for a couple of us to get there. And he was like, "Mike, get the fucking bar off me." I've seen people intentionally dump it. I saw a bar get dumped back, hit the guy in the forehead, the back spot, or knock him out. I've seen that. So I've also seen one of the coolest things is Chris Frenchie tore a bicep mid deadlift. It stops, he looks at it, and finishes it. And then his arm's like this, and he's like, I can't fucking extend my arm out. The bicep is torn. And the judge wouldn't give him a down for 10 seconds. Oh, man, dude.
Well, that's kind of a dick
I've
move.
also seen a dude whose junk was so big he couldn't get the deadlift bar over it. It stopped. He had such a hog on him, and I'm like, what do we do? Well, I'm the side judge. I'm like, that thing's got a hog, and he's looking at us like it won't come over it.
Tell him
What
to
do you-
tuck it, man.
How did this end?
I gave it to him like, fuck it, man. Listen, I was like,
I don't
white
want
on
to
the
have this
side.
conversation, so you just gave it away. Like,
I'm looking at the other judge, we're just like. I've had some good times at meets, man. I have seen some of the people I train with that stay up at 3 a.m. in the hotel room next to me, partying, sleep an hour, go and perform, and they're still fucked up, waking up and having, alcohol for breakfast and toots.
That one I never understood.
I don't know how the fuck they can do that. I've done it, to be fair. My last meet, I told them 24.50. We're up all night, 3 a.m.
Oh, hold on, wait. I don't know how they could do
But
this.
I did it too.
But I did it.
Hell yeah.
So what was the thought process? So was there any process?
No,
at any time?
I've already started. I may as well just finish strong at this point. I'm
Yeah.
on the ride now. But man, listen, I think one of my favorite moments ever was out benching the bench on the guys in full power. Come talking all that hot shit as soon as I came in. Like, y'all motherfuckers let a dude with 2 club feet, fucking way less than you, out bench you. That's all you guys do, and I out bench you. You guys
What do the club feet have to do with a bench?
Oh man, then I'm doing full power is what it was.
Oh, okay,
Because
all right.
they don't do full power, so they're bench only. Like, why? You guys are healthy. Why would you not? Mm-hmm. So, I love that. Oh, it's so good. It's like, man, it's like I stayed up all night on a fucking ball and still show up and out bench you, and that's all you do. You should probably quit. Maybe valet's more your thing, buddy.
So does that then mean that you have, like, fucked up PRs and then not fucked up PRs?
I think in all seriousness.
Because if it were me,
yeah.
I would.
I do.
Yeah, it'd be like equipped and raw, like 8 ball and regular sleep.
I think the most.
Now with this
yeah,
question
yeah.
though, which one's higher?
yeah.
Oh, by far my non.
Okay.
Fucked up. Yeah, by far. I mean, you were it got pretty bad for a little bit. We had a talk at the last one. I about wasted 1.5 years of my life in training, just partying, having a good time where it stalled. And I think one of the big smacks in the face when me and you had that deep conversation at like 12 at night, the last training retreat, and then when Dad looked at me, Brent was like, do you not fucking realize how good you can be at this? Has it ever been hard for you? No. All you do is bullshit and party and have a good time, and you don't take it serious. Look what you've done right now. So, and now, I mean, it's been a year, it'll be 2 years since I've competed in May. And since I finally come off and stopped doing stuff, even really just every now and then occasionally, strength's been through the roof. So, but it's just, what's a good way to put it? I had such a thing where, like, if I can still party, it was a way to mask failure if I didn't live up to any expectations I put on myself, because no one's harder on me than me. If someone beats me, it's because I was all fucked up when I competed. No big deal.
So it was a built-in excuse.
Absolutely. Built-in excuse.
So what are you thinking when he's telling you this and you have this conversation?
Well, I mean, one, like, I could tell he's passionate about it, right? Like, it matters to him. But on the other side of things, I'm like, fuck is wrong with this guy? Like, why is he like this? Like, because I'm like you. I know those people too. Like, the thought of training for a meet, showing up the night before, getting all fucked up. I'm like, why come? Like, just go to lift in the gym. Like, you realize, like, we have to pay to do this, right? You had to pay to be here.
Well, you
like,
train for
12 weeks.
Yeah.
12 weeks.
right.
I mean, you could just party the night after, right?
That's my other thing. Like,
we did. Don't get me wrong. What do you mean? What are you talking about? I think one of the first multiply meets I did, I had my hair was still long. I had pigtails. So I go to squat, I put pigtails in. I must spank all y'all asses daddy's home with pigtails. And I won the meet, yeah. And in between the first squat, I was like, I need a bump. I'm kind of tired. I started then like an idiot, so. But it was always so synopsis to me in the environment I came up. That's just what it was just normal. Even in my my life that was how my blood parents lived their life. They were just big suppliers for stuff. So I was never, when I moved to a suburb neighborhood where any type of drug, marijuana and stuff wasn't normalized, it was weird to me. I was used to kids on the corners and the projects just flipping stuff. That's how we got by. So it's a big culture shock for me.
Yeah.
So when I found that again in this, I was like, wait a second, these are my type of people. So, and then it just a built-in excuse to keep doing it, in a sense. Like, you know, because this is how it was, I'm used to, I'm just going to keep doing this. And people who don't do this, they're the weird ones. No. I knew I was the problem. It was absolutely me. It's not normal. It's not supposed to be like this. And now that I've really gotten clean and cleaned up, and man, I'll give my wife the biggest thank you. She has stuck by me through some rough fucking times. And that woman is phenomenal, supporting me in every which way, helped me just calm down and reel it back in. Giving her a reason to leave, and she hasn't. She's just been there for me every way. And those are hard to find.
I got a similar story, but for different reasons. And there was a time when my total was stuck, right? And at that point, I started looking for every possible solution that I could find. And there's Black's Health World would be at the time. So there were people that were training there that were passing things on. So things like meth, speed, coke, then that would be pre-workout, like next to the fucking chalk bowl,
Coke,
right?
Coke in the
Right?
Gatorade bottles.
And then after that, you got to come down, so then there's Valium. I mean, it was a mess of a cocktail, plus the gear,
man.
through the fucking roof. And then that all ended up leading to a pec tear, and then a conversation with Louis Simmons before I came to Westside, and we're sitting and we're speaking about all this. And then, I'm listening. It was actually kind of convenient because after I tore the pec, I had to go to the hospital and they asked what medication, what drugs are you on and medication. And it was, they wouldn't take me. And, I had to leave and then, come back like a month later, but I already had it all written down, right? So it's like, well, here's what it is. And Louis like, all this has to go and you need to drop down to like 2 cc's of test a week. And I remember telling him straight up, like, dude, I can't maintain my left forearm on that. And I don't jack off with that, right? And that began, my migration into Westside and all that stuff kind of going away and all the other stuff because it felt like it was helping, but I wasn't doing it for any recreational reason. Yeah. Every bit of that was to be able to get higher performance. And there were days in the gym I felt like fucking God. I mean, you're on all that shit, and then you have fucking what was it at the time? It wasn't Vicodin. It was some fucking pain killer.
Valium, Tramadol?
It was Tramadol maybe.
Tramadol.
But I didn't feel shit, right, at all. And you're hyped through the fucking max, right?
Oh, man, there's no stopping you.
Outside of some stability issues, everything just felt fucking amazing, right? But then it just wouldn't transfer. It was just fucking, it ended up tearing my pec off with 50 pounds under my opener, so it was like, what the fuck? And so that was scary, right? Because I thought that was all needed, right? Because I'm like, what the fuck? But at the same time, I wasn't going anywhere anyhow, and the whole training was going to change too. But coming off, that was no issues with all that. But that's when I hear that crazy shit. It's like, well, I did a lot of that same crazy shit, but with intention, with like PED attention, and then it just fucking blew up in my face.
Mine was just, it's a fun little pre-workout. You train, have one, enjoy, and then this is just what we do. It's normal. This is my normal training way. Why would I change it? Was the mindset.
But some of those compounds don't last the whole fucking squat cycle. Especially if you're squatting for 3 hours because you got 20 guys. It becomes a lot, man.
You're riding one roller coaster there.
Then I'd have to leave and then go bounce. And it's like, oh, fuck, now what am I going to do? Well,
mine a little bit more.
Yes.
And then that cycle starts and gets vicious.
Yeah.
On that note, then, since you brought it up.
Yes, what would you like to know?
Right.
Handsome Tom.
Never have I ever.
Never. Oh,
right.
dude.
Grab your ammonia salts.
Oh, God. Oh.
For every drug that I read out, if you have done it, and this is not an admission of guilt in any state or whatever the disclaimer is that I have to say, every drug that I read out that you've used, you have to take a hit. These are all brand new ammonia salts. This is going to get fun. Right. Easy one to start with. Weed or marijuana?
Well, all right.
Proper hit. Come on.
Oh, my God.
Perfect.
Oh, my fucking right nostril just...
Dude.
Yeah.
I'll give him a second.
Yeah, buddy.
Right.
My nose still works.
Are we keeping tally on this?
Tom.
Are we keeping a score on this?
Well, people can keep score.
I'm 2-0, baby.
I don't want to do it.
Tom, shit.
You masochist. I love it.
Come on.
Oh my god.
You know,
I did it for weed.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did it
No,
for weed.
cocaine.
Oh,
Yes, thank you.
Woo! Dude, if someone would make one of these that smells like ether, would be a bestseller.
that's what we were saying.
Now you haven't hit one yet.
I'm boring as fuck.
Yeah.
And I purposely wrote down
Other things I haven't done.
Tren.
What?
Tren. Yeah, I knew that would get everyone. That had to go in there.
That's the worst thing ever. Trent sucks.
That actually wasn't as bad as it is. Here, let's change salts.
Meth.
Oh God, Tom.
Dude, what the...
Oh my God!
It's way worse!
Oh fuck! I wasn't thinking.
There's there's another gingerbread one here, in case you want to. Okay, I'm looking purely at Zach. Poppers.
Oh, I don't have it. Thank God.
I was hoping so bad you'd look me straight in the eye. Okay, LSD. This is gonna fuck Jared up so bad.
Yeah, but why am I the one that's like?
You gave me half of this list.
Yeah, he asked earlier. He goes, "Hey, just start naming shit."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Oh, buddy.
Lightweight, baby. Adderall.
Dude, man.
Dave, no.
Yeah, you're hitting the wrong one.
That's fine. It's not on the list. I'm not
It's,
gonna
yeah, it's not. But half a hill, I would have to hit it.
How many more we got?
plenty.
Oh, fuck.
Shrimp.
What?
Shrimp, which is ketamine and MDMA. Apparently.
It is, but I touched that one.
Ready? Right, just to fuck Dave. Nicotine.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't want.
Tough shit.
Oh, I pushed out. Hold on.
I like that you did it.
Oh.
Two more.
Hold on.
Then
I
you're
gotta
done.
take my fucking nicotine pouch out.
Viagra or Cialis.
Oh, come
Dude,
on, man.
man.
I need a minute.
Cheers, boys.
No, hold on.
Some in there that would get
No.
you too.
That's not fair. I gotta fucking trade this with somebody else. Give me a different one.
Here, I'll swap you back.
No.
Give me this one.
No.
Viagra, Cialis. All right.
You know, should this shit count if it's prescribed?
Yes.
But did we really take it prescribed all the time?
Yeah. Shrooms.
Oh, God.
Not because I don't want to.
Because I can.
Yeah.
And now say 3 Hail Marys and repent your sins and you'll go to heaven.
Start giving me the lashes, buddy.
No, you're done. I can't. Even I'm getting a bit like, oh, this is harsh. I didn't read out Molly for you.
Oh,
Oh, boy. Who won?
I'm still trying to.
I think you won too.
Unfortunately.
You need to
Is
throw-
anybody
yeah.
surprised?
You need to throw a question out because I can't see right now.
Okay, so for me, they're totally unrelated then, now that you've just been annihilated. By the way, you should buy those at elitefts.
They're great.
Because they're fantastic.
Yeah,
That gingerbread is the fucking strongest one of all.
Dude, my
Right?
poor-
Holy shit.
that one hit.
Oh my
hit 'em.
God.
What for
No,
you
throw
is
it-
the
throw it up.
difference between confidence and ego?
I
Because
don't
obviously a certain degree of confidence is needed to put weight on your back or whatever it is, like tackle hard thing. But ego obviously then is maybe a different element of that. Yes.
Ego is me thinking I'm better or stronger than anybody else in the gym.
Okay.
Confidence is me knowing I can lift with everyone in the gym.
So for you, it's like a comparison of you versus a comparison of you versus others. As in
Yeah,
ego would be comparing yourself to others. Confidence would be more
Ego
internal.
is me thinking I'm better than others, where confidence is me wanting to be a part of others.
This is a good answer.
Yeah.
What about for you, Rodney?
I'd say the same. Like for me, it would be that, like walking in the gym and thinking that I'm just, or a meet and thinking I'm just. To preface that, like I do have that a little bit on meet day. That's just where I go to compete. I will walk out there and be like, I'm going to beat everyone here. But it's not really what I think. That's just a place to go to like perform. But I think the ego would be if you just thought that every single day,
even in life, like you just, I don't know, you just think you're better than everybody. Whereas just the confidence is just like that. You're just confident in your abilities.
True. Because, you know, in a way they're one and the same, right? They're kind of maybe different degrees.
Yeah.
But
I don't think so.
you know, so why do you not think so?
Because I think ego is a personality,
Okay.
right? And confidence is an emotion,
Okay.
right? So if somebody is, because you got ego, superego, id, you know, those type of things. So you'll have people that have that personality of the ego,
Okay.
right? To where that's kind of more permanent. Is how I would see that. Where confidence is going to be fleeting.
Sure.
You know, I'm confident I can do this. You know, I'm confident I can do that. I'm not confident I can do this.
True.
Right? Where ego being that personality trait, maybe that person thinks I can fucking do everything.
True.
I can rule the world. I can do all that because that's ingrained in their brain, you know, for whatever reason. So I see them as different.
Okay. So for you then maybe can ego kind of be unfounded? Because, you know, the average person would have no reason to think they can do everything. They have no data to support that, if you know what I'm saying.
I'd have to like brush up on Freud because he's the ego, super ego type of thing to be able to kind of know all that. So I don't know the psychology.
So just in your opinion, how you see it, for example.
That's how I would see it. That if somebody feels like basically the world owes them, they can fucking do everything. It doesn't matter what it is and all that type of thing. It's just kind of who they are, right? And I know people, you know, that are kind of like that. I mean, we all kind of do if you think it through. There's certain people in the industry that are kind of that way, and when you intimately know them, not intimately, but when you know them better than just more acquaintances, then you associate that with that's just their personality, right? Then you can overlook a lot of that because the way a lot of people would perceive that is how I would look at confidence, right? Or that the person's just bragging all the time or what it's going to be, to where if you think that you don't realize that's their personality type and that's who they are, and you can get past all that, then you can communicate and not have all the isms that they're going to be able to throw out, or all the accolades would be a better word, that they're going to be able to throw out all the time. Then it's easier to be able to communicate with them because that's kind of like who they are, right? It's how it is. Where the confidence thing is, that's the thing that I don't know if the ego, and again, you know, defaulting back to not knowing the psychology, if the ego is something that can actually be up or down, or if you're just biologically built with that, where the confidence is something that can come up or down, you know, based upon successes and who you surround yourself with and all those other type of things.
So in that scenario, so like you mentioned building confidence, like that will be an issue for a lot of people. Some people you need to knock down.
Yeah.
We all kind of know how to do that, but when we have people on the other end of the spectrum, and maybe like, you know, a couple of you have mentioned having periods of time where you maybe doubted your abilities and didn't, maybe this is as high as I go or as far as I go or whatever. How does one go about building confidence and changing that attitude to, you know, not necessarily getting to the point where I am the best, and, you know, but getting to the point where I know there is more to come from myself, or I am capable of more? How does one go about kind of instilling that in best, in your opinion?
I've got one for you, so I'll use the squat as a scenario. So we'll take it as this. So if you, every time you get under a barbell, a squat, and it's something heavy you haven't done before, but you've never failed a squat, even though it's heavy, it's uncharted territory, because you practice not failing a squat, you'll have confidence knowing if I get under it, I can finish it. Taking it to the edge, but not failing, and then building that, hey, you know what, we're going to take it pretty far, pretty heavy with it, but we're not going to let you fail. Just practice, that you just become used to not failing. It installs confidence. That when it gets to it, I just tell people, hey, just approach it as another squat day. Have you missed it last time when we put something on there you haven't done, whether it's a variation or straight weight? Nope. What's the difference of it? So
for you, would that be another selling point for your idea that there should always be kind of a rep in reserve?
I think so, absolutely.
Not just the physical wear and tear, stress, but the confidence, the lack of failure, the repeated success over time. So do you think that maybe is even more important, perhaps, than the cycle, the physical side of maxing out?
For me, my perspective, I would definitely say yes, because it builds just confidence in every which way around. So it keeps you from, you keep progressing, you hold back a little bit, but it also still instills some confidence in you too. So.
What about like for you two? Because you two both mentioned like going through periods where like your totals were stagnant, and then from that you've obviously gone on and reached a new level beyond that. So like, how did that process begin? Where you started to believe that my ceiling hasn't been hit yet? You know, I can do more than this.
I didn't. I just liked training, and I just started training again. And for me, it was other people. I mean, I'll get into that. I've struggled with that a long time, with everything in life. That like, why me? Not necessarily why me, but like
Yeah,
this
why would
stuff.
I be the person who can total 3,000?
Exactly.
Or whatever? Yeah.
If you had told me that shit long ago, I'd be like, nah, dude, fuck you. That's not gonna happen. But then you meet certain people, and I mean, it started well before I came out here, but that you, I guess, value their opinions, right? And they do. They kind of tell you that stuff. Like Carlos was one of them. He's been that guy that has been like, well, I mean, you can do it. You just have to do the work. You know, not a yes man. Not someone that's, oh, yeah, you can totally do that shit. But like one that's like, yeah, man, it's just a lot of work. And it's just going to take time. And we'll see what happens. And even before that, he's not with us anymore. But my friend Alan, he was another one. He's the one that kind of really started me down the road to like the Grand. Because he's my best friend and like a brother to me. And I kind of told him about that shit, but I also even at that time, I was like, dude, look at these guys. Like, I don't think I could, I'm going to try, but I don't know about it. He's like, well, why not? I mean, they fucking do it. Yeah. Like, you know. So for me, that's where that led from, like, I mean, it's just other people telling me that I could do it. And then that too, just doing it, like not missing weights and all that stuff, like just doing it.
What about you, Jared?
Same thing, or very, very close. I think I had to start seeing small victories, you know, stacking little wins up. Like, you know, my total stagnated because, say, my deadlift sucked. You know, the last deadlift I failed, maybe I couldn't even break the ground with it. You know, maybe 3-4 weeks into prep, I take that number again, I'm actually able to break the ground.
Yeah.
So I know that was a start. But I think more so, it was always surrounding myself with the people that, like Rodney said, you know, the people that saw that in me. I may not have seen. I know I didn't see a lot of shit in myself, but others did, and they kept repeating it. They kept telling me that, and I kept showing up. And I started to. There's still some doubt in my head. There's that little voice that still says, "You ain't shit. You know, you're a fucking fraud." But these people that I know that know more than me, that are stronger than me, telling me this is what you're gonna get. These are your numbers that you're gonna hit, and I hit them.
Right.
That definitely kicked some doors. That kicked some huge doors down in my head. I think that does speak to, you know, the quality or the caliber of people you need to surround yourself with in this sport, because I've had a ton of people that were my biggest fucking cheerleaders or fans, but we're filling my head full of just the yes man shit.
Yeah.
Oh, great lift. But then, you know, I throw a lift to you, and what do? No, this is wrong. This is wrong. Here's what we need to fix. And then you take a look at it. You actually like, fuck, they're right. They're fucking right. Because all that, if I don't fix that, is gonna have my total stagnant again. True. And I'm gonna be right back in the same spot that I was.
So my outlook's a little bit different because I was raised in a way to never quit anything. You know, so I can remember playing soccer when I was a kid and having asthma and I can't breathe, but because it was like week 1 in, I was not allowed to quit. You know, I can give countless examples of that, to where in my life that's actually kind of served maybe as a detriment, you know, in some areas, but I've had, because of that, I've had things taken away, right? Like I can't compete in powerlifting anymore because I physically just can't do it. But I never, it wasn't like quitting the whole thing. But it got me through college, you know, where 4 years took fucking 7, you know, so it got me through a lot. And what I've learned from that is a lot of times when things are bad and they're not going the way that you think they should go, sometimes it's only like 2 more steps and it's right around the fucking corner. Right. And so that's been so ingrained that, like, if I'm committed to this one, so I also will not commit to things that I know that I'm not, you know, so there's a process that goes on before that happens, but that always kind of stays in my head. Like, if I was to stop right now, what if, you know, it's only, you know, 2 more steps, or it's only like another year, or it's, what if it's that and I fucking quit like right before, you know, it was going to happen, you know, and that's actually a paralyzing thought, you know, for me, to where that could become that detrimental thing. Like, now you're stuck into something that you probably should get out of. But see, even as I say that right now, I'm processing, but maybe, you know, what if, you know, that kind of falls into that, and that faith, you know, that it's going to work out. But when that time period comes, I can't have the ignorance to think I gotta keep doing things exactly the same way, and those 2 steps are going to show. It's that moment where my advice would be, you got to pause and analyze and realize what you've been doing isn't what you need to do to be able to go forward, right? And that's where you reach out, the networking, reaching out to other people, all those other things kind of fall into that place with the powerlifting and the marriage example, right? If somebody's married and they go in for this lifetime commitment before things divorce or break, what happens usually before that? They're going to seek advice from, you know, pastor, priest, counselor, friends, you know, other people. They're going to seek counsel to try to figure that all out. But in this sport, how many don't do that, right? They'll hit that certain point, right? And they may kinda seek counsel, but not really. Where sometimes it could be, you just need a new coach. You need somebody to actually be fucking honest with you. Like, if you're in a gym that you've been in for the same period, for the same time, with the same people, they're not going to be as critical of you as maybe a different group would be, you know, because of the position that, especially if you're the strongest guy in the fucking gym, right? Who's going to tell the strongest guy in the fucking gym in a crew that, I think you're kind of fucking this up? It, you know, it doesn't happen. But in other areas of life, you know, you'll seek that counsel. Lifters won't do that, you know, to the same regard. Then
does there become, because obviously confidence is always the aspect that will get looked at. Like, how do I gain confidence, etc. But, like, does that mean then in reality there's an important balance between confidence and humility, in that you need the confidence to know that there are steps that you can take and you can get better, but you also need to have the humility to know you don't have it all figured out. Yes. So when things do slow down, you got to be able to swallow your ego, or whatever you want to call it, and say, well, you know, I don't have all the answers. Sure, I can get better, but I need to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I would expand on that and say the humility to actually listen.
And not just...
Yes, because there's one thing to ask questions of somebody, but then not process what they actually tell you. Which happens a lot.
Yeah, well, we walk in a scenario, right, where someone comes to you and asks a question, and you're probably the 5th person they've asked, because the other 4 haven't given them the answer
they
want, right?
Oh, yeah.
And when you give them the same answer, the other 4 people, they're like, oh, I guess I'm finding a 6th.
Yeah, and it's actually something I've learned from doing the podcast. It's amazing what you could actually learn from people if you listen. I mean, really, it is. You know, I think a lot of people will engage in dialogue, or they'll ask the questions like what you're talking about, but then they're not actually listening to what's being said. You know, it's a conversation. You know, it's happening, it's transpiring, but they're not fucking listening. You know, where if it's a podcast and I'm listening to you guys answer questions, I'm really thinking about what you're saying. Right? How many times do people do that if you're talking to somebody in a gym or a training crew, or if you're talking to one of your coaches? It just becomes this normal, everyday, casual reactive conversation without active listening. So where if you're at that point, you need to learn how to actively listen to what's being said. Doesn't mean it's going to be right, but fuck, you're going to have a better chance of figuring out, if it's right or if it's wrong, if you're actively listening to the whole thing.
Does that come back then in many ways too? Like that requires the same kind of investment, like we were talking about earlier, that where you have to take the investment in your own training to learn how to auto-regulate, you also need to take the investment to, if your training supposedly is this important to you, when you are having these conversations, you really need to be thinking about these things that are put forward to you and how do I implement, rather than just taking the answer at face value, if you know what I mean. Like, why is the answer that way? Well, how can I apply this to the scenario I'm in? So as opposed to just be like, oh, okay, so I went to Dave and he said I need to do spot press. Great, I'm going to do spot press. Whereas the thought process could be, what did Dave see that made him take that route with me, and why did that work, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I would say to be, if you're looking for that advice and that counsel, to be prepared before you ask the question, right? Because active listening is exhausting, right? So think back when you were in college or any course that you've ever taken and you're actively paying attention, or firefighter school or whatever it is, and you're in that classroom and you're taking notes and you're actually trying to digest this material. Your brain is fucking shot. Afterwards, it's exhausting. That's why we don't actively listen in all the normal conversations that we have all the time, because it's fucking exhausting. Like watching TV is not exhausting. It's just passive, right? A lot of times that passive trait is how people will go into conversations of counsel, and so they're not able to do that because it's hard. But if you know before, you know what I'm saying? That here's what the question is, or here's what the problem is. And then that is, this is focus time. Then that focus time is in there. That's what I think most people don't do.
Sure. I suppose then, would you say, like say someone is at an event, they ask you a question about the lift. Would it be better for them to frame this in the way of like, well, if I wanted a consult with Dave, I would book it in for an hour, I would pay X amount of dollars, whatever. You're not going to go into that consult and be there scrolling through Instagram whilst they're listening to you, right?
No. I mean, an event or something like that, or a seminar or something like that.
How they approach that conversation in a consult mentally is going to be all in on what you're saying, because I paid for this hour. Whatever. I want to extract.
Yeah, because that's not going to happen in a big group environment.
No, but at least if they're asking someone, they're going to someone who they value for advice, they should maybe treat it in the same way.
Yes.
In terms of like, well, it may not have cost me anything financially, but what I'm asking is a very specific question, getting a very specific answer, which is of high value, or at least I perceive it to.
Sure.
So I should look at it in the same way.
Sure, and we see this in everyday life. Like if you're training in a gym crew or whatever it is, and you really have a problem, like you have a problem with your wife or whatever it's going to be, and you mentioned it to a friend of yours, the first thing they're going to say is, hey, look, let's go outside and talk about this. They're going to separate from the group, right? But if you're in the group, that's that opportunity that, here's 40 people that all do the same shit that I'm doing. Now you can recreational listen to everybody, but you can vet out, you can ask the question to all 40 people, but you're kind of vetting out, like, who will I follow up with later? Or if it's a seminar and there's 40 different presenters, there's no way you're going to, take in all that stuff. But you'll be able to actively be able to take in enough to say this person, this person, this person. Then you go do a deep dive. And this is what we inherently are going to do anyhow, right? Then you'll do a deep dive on whatever they presented about, and then have that period there. So being in that group environment is awesome, because now you don't have to make appointments with 30 different people, to actively drain the shit out of yourself to try to find the one person that kind of knows what they're talking about. So that's the benefit of a crew, for one thing, but there can be a detriment too, because if it's the same crew that you've been with for 15 years, they're probably not going to be pointing out the things that need to be pointed out. So
do you think that's something, and this would be interesting to hear from all of you, like obviously the amount of information that's available now, training, nutrition, whatever, is insurmountable almost compared to whatever years ago, right? But do you think people are really making enough out of the education that is out there, maybe because of the types of things we're talking about there, like active versus passive listening? Like, people are putting on podcasts, but they're not really listening to what's being said. They're scrolling through the Instagram post or whatever, and they're seeing it, but they're not really learning from it. Do you think this is maybe why now I would argue that if we look back, say 20, 30 years, the amount of information that's freely available in people's average knowledge were kind of where you would expect. Whereas now the amount of free information that's out there is way up, but the knowledge probably hasn't scaled up on average the same amount. Do you think that that's maybe like a missing factor, that people aren't approaching it in the right way?
I think a lot of people are probably looking for validation the way they're thinking it. When they have, let's say they read something or they have an idea about something, they will seek out the information that fits the way they want it to, but they aren't willing to go look at the other side of it and then compare and then get a little bit more information of it. Just information biased. Yep. You can do nothing but echo chamber what you want to hear, and I think that's horrendous. Same as influencers are big now. Instead of all this free information that you would have to read and seek out, you just scroll through your phone and go through it and then just cherry pick who you want to hear that better fits what you want to hear. So, and I also, they'll take it at face value too. No one wants to go an extra couple of layers and figure out why they had that approach. Why do they say this? Why do they get to that conclusion? They said it. I like it. They're cool. They have all these followers and updates. Sounds good. And then go from there. Just very, I think surface level information has become the primary thing for whatever reason. Instead of going deeper and getting layered information and vetting it yourself, they just assume that it's pre-vetted for you and what they're presenting is the best research.
I think people just want to be told what to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's easy.
The way I kind of navigate that is I'll listen to a lot of different podcasts and stuff like that for all kinds of different reasons. But if I'm listening to one and it's like, oh shit, like this is good, you know, I'll still listen to it, but I'll either pull over in some way or another. I'm going to take that and put it in my notepad, you know, and then save that to be able to go back later and be able to really, really focus on it a little bit more. And so in essence, if it's the podcast or whatever I'm listening to, I'm just passively listening to, but every now and again, you know, there's something that hits because that's what you're looking for right now, or then I'm not going to just keep listening. I actually won't even continue listening to it. I'll just stop, boom, boom, notepad it, and then go back to it at a certain time. I think if more people did that, you know, even if it is an Instagram post and it's really highly informational, save that fucking thing, you know, because you're not going to, most people aren't going to stop scrolling and really focus on it because they're already in that scrolling mentality. But just saving it to be able to go back at a different time would be so, because there is way too much information, right? So I don't disagree with that at all. But that allows a better opportunity if you know to save it, bookmark it, or whatever you're going to be able to do to be able to actually digest that information. That's what I think they don't do, is they're just actively, and they're not able to actually process any of that.
They look at, that's cool, I like that, sounds great, on to the next girl.
Yeah, you know, what I'll tell people is forget the heart and hit and look for the save, right? Because it's easy to go through just like. Fuck that, right?
What do you gain from it? Fucking nothing.
No, but you gain from the saving, right? So if I'm going through my Instagram, for example, there's shit I follow that's on email marketing and stuff like that. And people say, well, fuck, this is kind of good. Save, go, right? I've saved way more shit. I don't think I like anything, you know, than I've ever liked of almost anything. Right. And then I got that whole library in there. Now, when I find the time to go look at the fucking library, there's my breakdown. Like, there's the problem there. But the features are there. You know, it's actually better for the person, too, that has the social media channel if you actually save it compared to if you like it, I believe. You know,
I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, again, do you think it just comes down to, like, again, social media being a tool and it's just not being used in the way that it could be, and people could be getting a lot more from it education-wise than they are?
100%, because we've all seen really good shit. Just even Instagram posts that are really good, but they're rare. They're kind of like gems.
Yeah.
You know, it's what Louis say one time: if there's 1,000 rocks in the parking lot, you turn over all of them, you find the one that has gold underneath it, or some stupid shit like that. That's kind of how I would look at this. Right? There's fucking gold in there. But for a lot of people, when they find it, they don't find a way to archive it. Yeah. Right? So what's the point of having gold if you can't use it? You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I think kind of happens with that. With you guys being in powerlifting for so long, what do you think about the evolution of it and where it's going?
think it's phenomenal. It's cool to see everyone, just the numbers and the realms of possibility that we thought was unachievable are just getting blown up. They're getting younger, stronger, or on the opposing side of it, people in equipped are getting a little older and more matured in it and getting stronger too. People who are it's a flip flop for me. I see people because I'm an equipped, so I have a bias. That's all because I don't have social media. I don't have any of it. I got Discord. That's it. You should join the crew if you want to talk to me. By the way, look, it's awesome. That's how I met these guys. But anywho, I've seen it as just from going to meets from all the different states and meeting people. I'm seeing people on the equipped side who are aging and still getting stronger and progressing and pushing those heights. Where I've seen the raw, the total opposition of that. They're getting younger and stronger, and their lifespan and it's shorter. As equipped, it's growing. But I think the evolution's incredible. I think we'll see someone squat 1,400 before we know it. Cole will just continue setting the bar so high for bench, it's insane. There's just everyone's competing for second place right now on bench. So, but I think Tony's got a good shot at doing something huge. Rob is just a freak of a bencher. So when he's ready to do something again, he will at ease. But just I think the numbers are going to continue to get more astronomical. I think a 3,500 pound total is not impossible. I think it could happen 5-10 years. I don't know who, but the way things are going, the evolution of gear, and then, gear, and then, equipped stuff, and then just the genetics, the pool of it is just growing.
Yeah, the raw and the gear numbers are going to continue. I've been around this shit for 40 years, right? So I can remember people saying nobody's going to be able to bench, 700 pounds or 600 pounds or whatever it's going to be. Yeah, I can remember Gary Frank being on the cover of Powerlifting USA for breaking a 2,400 pound total, which I believe is done raw now.
There's a kid that told like 2560 raw.
Yeah.
And I remember, for me, when I first got in it, I think it was Jesse Norris, the first kid to hit 2000 at 198 raw. Yeah. That's nothing now.
And he did that
was
in his
huge.
early 20s,
Yeah. And that was so astronomical. And then you've got people at 181 who've done it. It's just, and that's just in, say, a 10-year time frame.
Yeah.
And look at the female side. Oh, my God.
Yeah. So when I break that down and think it through, there's only a couple variables that play into that. Right. The one would be there's more people exposed. So people with better genetics are coming in. And the second would be the access to information that a lot of people like to bitch about is more prevalent. Where when I was coming up, I had to drive 2.5 hours to find somebody that was a better lifter than I was. Yeah. So that there's a lot of, that's a lot different today, right? Where I can find something probably of value within 4 minutes, on my phone instead of having to travel. So there may be other components, but those are the two biggest ones that I think kind of play into that. What are your thoughts?
I think the sport's great. I think we have to still, the small portion, but I think I'm right there with the influencer side, the smoke and mirrors, look at me. I think is just a real small percentage that really is going to be, I don't think it can overshadow the sport. Because I've seen the sport in some of the, smaller federations or the smaller meets that I've gone to or competed or judged in, where I see a high caliber of lifter that just doesn't have the follows on Instagram. I've seen a 21-year-old kid compete in his third meet in RPS, Dennis Gitke, in multiply nail his first 1,000 pound squat and then turn right around and do a 1,025 pound squat in his third meet and crush it and not get any accolades, on social media, but then turn around and be really awesome for the sport. I think and I'm a raw lifter, and that's watching what's going on with equipped. I see equipped still being a big thing. I see it coming back bigger, I think, more and more. I see that growing. We have some kids back home, young kids, that I've heard talking about, how do we bring younger kids into the sport? How do we continue? Young kids, 24-year-olds asking how they grow the sport, which if you asked me, what I've heard that maybe a couple of years ago with the whole social media thing, I would have doubted it. But now I see that in those younger kids. As long as that continues, I think the sport's going to be, I think the sport's always going to be a fringe sport, an outlier sport. We're not the Olympics. I don't think we're going to ever be meant for the Olympics. I think we're going to be a sport that's for everybody to just find strength.
With the influencer thing, something I think a lot of people should take the time to do is, if they just think of how many influencers in powerlifting they know, right? and fucking, if they really want to process this, go through and count how many there are. Maybe, 10, 20, something like that. And then go to open powerlifting and just pick any weight class. I don't give a fuck what it is. And then scroll all the way down. And you want to know what powerlifting is? It's not them, because they make up less than probably 0.1% of everybody that's in there. So I don't like when people will stereotype powerlifting based upon an influencer, but not actually look at what the demographic actually is, because it's a false narrative that is no different than what our government's been fucking throwing at us for the past, or every government, I'll be fair, has been throwing at people for the past fucking decades.
Ours has been pretty bad.
Yeah. But it's, you see what I'm saying? Where that's what's so fucked up for me, right? Is because the same people that will bitch about that influencer type of thing, right?
Yep.
Also are bitching about the government type of thing. Right? And it's like, you don't understand, you're contradicting your fucking self. You know what I'm saying? Or when it comes to like the group of people that want to like change a federation or whatever it's going to be a dictator of the federation, are usually the same people that are going to bitch about all the politicians and how they're all full of shit. Like, how is what you're doing any fucking different than everything you bitch about for fucking 8 hours a day? It's the same goddamn thing. You're actually that person, and you don't know that.
Well, if you say you want to grow the sport, it's the same people, that 1%, that 0.1, who are, we want the sport to get bigger. How do we get bigger? But that piece of equipment's not okay. Don't you ever use that?
Yeah,
That's
and
not
if
cool.
you go through that list on open powerlifting, yes, some of them were definitely influencers by an influencer that got them in there. Yes, but it's a small percentage.
Right.
Most of them are in there because they have a friend or a friend of a friend that also powerlifts, or they go to a gym and somebody's powerlifting there and somebody helped bring them into the sport. That's not that influencer. That's that other 99.9% of the people that are on there. So if you want to grow the sport, be more inviting to the people that are in your gym and the people that are around you. It's fucking
That's
simple.
the way to do it.
My
But go
first
to
thought when you mentioned the influencer was just go to any average local meet. Is it full of tripods and influencers?
No.
Or is it full of the people you would kind of expect, being in the sport, the people you would expect to be there? You know, that at the grassroots level, to me, it looks the same, and it's just growing in general, which is great. Sure, maybe if you go to some of the pro competitions or whatever with the bigger cash prizes and more exposure, sure, there's maybe more of that creeping in there.
That's different, though.
That it is different, and that is not 99% of the experience that's gained from powerlifting. It's the 1% you mentioned. So for the other 99%, if that 1% growing in popularity drip feeds things down into the sport, more money, more exposure, more gyms having the equipment that's required, whatever it might be, is that not still a net win?
I absolutely
It's
think
like,
so.
Everyone will bitch about CrossFit, but how many more barbells are in gyms now? How many more men and women are picking up barbells because CrossFit exists? I think it's a net win, regardless of what you may think about the thing itself. I think it happening is drip feeding good things down into the sport.
You brought up something that's something that we should mention is it's a rare number of people that are in those top meets, right? And if they're at that level for so long, that's what they think powerlifting is. Because basically every meet they go to is kind of like pro caliber type meet or elite lifters and above type meet. And if they stay in that for too long, they'll begin to, and I've seen this, they begin to lose sight of why they're really in it in the first place. It's for them to just go experience a meet like the first one they ever did will bring them back to why they got into this. Because with any sport, the higher you're going to get, I frame it like the Wizard of Oz. I mean, you get to a certain point and you start to see what's behind the curtain, and it's not what you thought it was, right? It's just the way it is, right? But you still got to remember why you're on that journey in the first place. And because they begin to start to despise the sport. The games are harder. Everything gets harder when you're in that top 1%. Everything matters way more. So it becomes mentally draining to where all the things that we've talked about then start to become compromised because they no longer really love it. It actually becomes a job. Right? Then when it becomes a job, they got to fall back in love with it to be able to have everything move forward for them. Your thoughts on?
I'm with you with that last statement. I think when you get to that level, if you make this into like a job, then it gets really boring and bad, and I hate it. I've had it be that before. Right? Like my job, I love my job, but it's my job. When I walk out of there, I'm over it. I don't think about it ever again until I walk back in there the day later or whenever the shift is. As far as the sport itself, like, yeah, I think this is one of those cool-ass sports. However you want to do it, there's a way to do it, right? You want to walk in there and wear just a singlet and actually do it raw, you can do that. If you want to wear knee wraps and sleeves and do slightly less equipped, you can do that as well. And then if you want to wear full equipment, you can certainly do that as well, all the way to a, band shirt and all that stuff. So.
And you can do bench only.
Stop. Stop.
Yeah.
Just please, do you want to go down? Are you ready to go down that hold that tangent?
You are.
Always, baby. Always. Man. Okay, so let me get some context to this before I just start rambling off on it. Majority of the bench only guys I have experience with are a couple of things. Fucking prima donnas and everything's got to be perfect that will bitch about the handoff being slightly off or the collar wasn't all the way on. It's never their fault. Never their fault something goes wrong or anything like that. The superiority complex kills me. Like, this is just for fun. Why are we being so intense about it? The handoff was a little off. You're fucking okay. It's not going to kill you. And that's all you do. Be fucking good at it. Please, don't let full power. Like, I am stupidly good at bench, and I don't know why. It is my least favorite lift, but I'm good at it out of just pure loathingness for other bench-only guys that I've trained with that I want to outbench them, and I have, because that's the only thing you do, and you want to compete with me. But I'm just competing with myself. That's my mindset with it. Mm-hmm. Man, just, if you're healthy, why would you not want to do full power? I fucking love squatting. Squatting's my favorite. It's not my best, but I love it.
I think it ties back into that. It's just another way to do it.
It's another way to do it.
Which is awesome. Like, however you want to do it, you can do it.
It's good.
I love them. I love it when there's a bunch of bench-only guys in a meet. It gives me like an extra 2 hours to rest.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Why is this flight so long? Oh, it's the bench only guy.
Yeah.
Time to go get Popeyes.
Hell yeah. The 30 of you guys today? Absolutely. I'm going to go take a nap. See you in a little while.
My question
Lets me rest up for dead.
You mentioned loving squat. Why does a squat-only category not exist?
I've done it because I bombed out on bench.
Say they do.
It
does.
It does. It's there.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
I've
absolutely.
never seen that.
Me neither. I've never seen.
I think it's probably added in there just a way to make more money. Which I'm down with. You should make money. You're running a meet. You should make money. Why else wouldn't you do it? But yeah, I've seen them on the entry forms. You can do squat only, bench only, and deadlift only.
Because that always confused me. Like, if you have a bench and deadlift out, why did you just decide to leave that one out?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, to me, that was a really odd decision.
Right.
Like, just go the full hog and give everyone the chance to do whatever the fuck they want.
I also love seeing the guys, and people understand the people who go and sign up for every category are the people that help put money into this sport and the federation buy better equipment.
Masters, Open,
yes, police, fire,
squat, bench,
only
deadlift,
each.
only,
Yes, they walk home with like $700 worth of hardware, and he's sitting there counting. Just made a hell of a payday, and he did. What's wrong?
I get it, but I've never liked that shit.
Or the guys doing bench for reps in the back.
No,
and curls.
the ones entering like fucking 12 fucking divisions and they walk away with. I get it. It brings more money into this. I get it, but
is that why they're doing it though?
Oh God, no. I don't. Most of them I've had, they just go back to their local high school they coach at. I'm a world champion. Yeah. What'd you bench? Wait a second, open powerlifting. Wait a second.
Yeah, I mean, you can see sometimes on open powerlifting, there's like the same meet listed, like fucking 8 times, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. But anyhow, people can do whatever they want. It's like, what the hell? You're gonna spend all this extra money,
to still do 9 lifts.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like
You're still doing the 9, and if it's the trophy thing, just fucking buy them, and
they're cheap.
They're not individual fucking labels on them anyhow.
No. Yeah.
It's like, here's the trophy with no fucking label on the damn thing, or just first place. It doesn't have a weight class. Yeah. I mean, when I first started the shit, those things had like the place and the weight division and the name of the event.
Yeah.
It was all like one, because there was what, that fucking 8 million. If you were to run a meet, you need like 540 fucking trophies if you had one for every division.
Yeah.
And 1 through 3. Yeah. So they can't do that. So it's just like blank trophy.
It's all the same. Here you go.
Like blank trophies with no tag, and like, here you go.
Here's a medal.
Here's a marker. First place, 242. Here you go. And then the same fucking awards will be used the next meet over and over and over.
What are you trying to say? Because I'm doing that.
Whatever. I get. Like I said, I get it. I get it.
Dude, I don't want to spend $1,000 on trophies for you guys. I'm glad you're here, but like the best lifter trophies, we'll put a little into that. Cool. But everyone, now I will say Matt Brooks with the license plate, that was a cool, unique thing he did. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, but it's a lot of money to spend on trophies for that many people.
You can't.
God, there's no way.
You can't.
You lose out.
You
Yeah,
can't.
be bad time.
It's financially not possible.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
You mean there's not a lot of money in
But
this?
then people will
What?
probably moan their entry fees $10 more than it was last year.
Yeah.
Probably the ones that want all the trophies with the engraved.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
it's like, well, there you go. Someone's got to pay for it, right?
Yeah. The door price goes up a little bit. It was 10, now it's 20.
Yeah, I had an article or blog years ago that we went through and calculated how many potential world records there are with every division. You know, from age divisions to open, raw, different gear divisions, police, fire. There's a lot. It was something like 140,000. I mean, it was something absolutely astronomical because you start combining them with master. This is hard to figure out, but actually now Chat GPT could do it like that. But you got weight divisions, but then you got age divisions with masters and teen and all that. Then you got masters, firefighter, raw. I mean, you start. It's mind numbing to figure it out. Like,
and then each federation on top of that too.
Oh God, we didn't even factor that in. That would be a whole other thing. Were any topics that you had down there that we didn't get into?
The one that I wanted to bring was, I can't remember if I sent it to you, but I saw a video the other day of a Japanese weightlifting hall where they went in and filmed over their day, and basically what they were showing was all the guys and girls who went into this weightlifting gym to be part of a weightlifting team. They showed them setting up their equipment, brushing down the bar at the beginning of every session, doing their equipment. Every weight plate went back in the exact same place. They put the squat racks away. They brushed down their platforms at the end of every session, so there was not a bit of chalker. So my question would be like, you had an option to open your own gym, completely clean slate of everyone who begins in it. What ethics and rules would you put in to try and... We've talked a lot about like life lessons that are learned in the gym that you carry outwards, right? Mm-hmm. What kind of ethics, rules would you put in place to create a community and environment where you can have people learn those lessons and carry them out into making them a better person?
Hold on, before you answer, I got to tell a story about this one. Mel Siff came into Westside Barbell one time, right? So all he kind of knew was like Russian weightlifting and stuff like that. He was so so stressed after the first 15 minutes that he went in the corner behind the belt squat down and ate peas. He had a suitcase, by the way, just full of fucking canned peas. I don't know what that was all about. And then when we had lunch later and we're discussing this, the things that were bothering him were just grabbing and throwing plates around, right? And just basically mistreatment, of all the equipment and ethics that he couldn't handle it. It was that fucking stressful. Then he's explaining to us, yes, in other countries you can't step over the bar. You have to go around the bar. And it's like, you guys are just like throwing shit and stepping over stuff and all this. So it kind of plays into that, which just reminded me of how we're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Not stepping over a bar. It's like this sacrilegious fucking thing you're not allowed to do. Where that's kind of the environment that he was talking about. So you can go ahead and answer Tom's question.
A couple things. Clean up afterwards. Simplicity, right? If everything has a place, please put it there. If you have a plan for the day, finish it. Don't cut it short. Just follow through with it. And if someone else in the gym, they're going to go for a lift, just help. Don't just offer it immediately. If you need a spot, let me know. Would you want that? Absolutely. Let's get to that. It'd be pretty simple. I would also make it private, where if you wanted to be here, it has to be here. Not just, I wouldn't want a public gym. If I had that set up, private. Show that you want to be here.
But then when you're screening people, what are you looking for? The idea of it being private is you get to choose, right? So what characteristics are you looking for then that creates the environment that you want?
Dependability, accountability, and just are you going to give what you expect from others? Probably it. Not too hard. And then we can go from there. We'll teach you the etiquette along the way. So if you want to be here, be here. Don't just come because it sounds like a good idea. Show me a little commitment by wanting to do the process, and I'll probably let you in. So more than just, I just need a gym to train at. No. Sure. So I'd be pretty easy to get in with. Wouldn't be hard.
First and foremost, because I've seen it work, a compete clause, a compete or participate clause within meet. So I belong to a private club, to a private gym. I would want members. They don't have to be in prep all the time, but I want you to, so your other members of the gym that are in prep, you come to the meet, you help handle, you help spot, you help load, you give back to the sport. I think that brings it, without me having to screen anybody, I think that already brings in a certain caliber of member that I'd be looking for. Respect the equipment, treat it as your own, brush down the bar, put the bar back, put the safeties back up in the power racks, put the bench back in so it's ready for somebody, so the next person that comes in, it's ready for them to use, how it should be. And don't camp out on equipment. We have people in prep. If you're not in prep, I don't want to see you there on your phone for 15 minutes between your sets. Let's all work together. We're fortunate enough to have 2 monos at our gym. And several comp benches, every specialty bar that we need. And we do have a lot of people in prep, usually all at the same time. I never see a member come in that sees somebody else that's in the mono and get pissed because that person's not in prep, but we are. We work together. We work. I've said that before. One of my training partners, it was 6 foot. He's 6'4", 350 pounds, and he and I did a prep together, and we made it work. So and it was a great prep. So I guess that's just common courtesy. It's our gym is our home away from home.
I would just model it after where I train at now, because that is that. Like, all the people that are there, they all want to be there. They're all good. Everybody takes care of the equipment, right? It's kind of treated as like, Carlos may have bought the equipment, but I think most of the people that train there, except maybe his personal training clients, just because they're a little different, like. Mm-hmm. We all have that, like, it's ours. He might have bought it, but it's ours. Like, if we fuck it all up, it won't be there anymore. The helping portion is a big one. We're all a team, and that's what I would expect, because I'm like you. I wouldn't have a commercial gym. I'd have a fucking smaller spot. And that's a big aspect of it. Like, you got to be there to help everybody. Like, I'm there to help you. You're there to help me. Yeah. And, and it's never been an issue. And that would be that. Most of the time, the people that aren't going to make it, they all weed themselves out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yep.
It wouldn't be that hard to get in there. I think personally, like, especially with the way people are nowadays, nobody really wants to do anything in person. Like, they don't want to come talk to anybody. So yeah, that's how it works. People would email, and that's Carlos, and that's how I would do it too. And immediately he's like, "Yeah, man, we train Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Feel free."
Yeah.
And the ones that show up, they usually stay, and then most of the time the people don't show up.
I've distilled it all down to just culture fit. Because I got washed up meatheads. I got people that don't compete, and I got people that compete at the highest level, and it's a private gym. Right, so there's all different types that kind of fit in there, but if they don't fit the culture of everybody else that's in there, then I don't want them, right? So, shit's, look around. I mean, shit's left out, shit's a mess here and there. Then, well, whatever, if we needed it cleaned up, we could say, look, can everybody clean? That's so minuscule compared to, is it going to help, all the other people that are in there, right? In whatever capacity they can. So if they don't know training that well, but they're a good culture fit, they're going to be able to learn the training.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? If they coach really well, but they don't compete, they can definitely help all the other people that are out there. If they're a top competitor, but they can help with the other people, then it's a good thing. Now, if they're a top competitor and they have ego or whatever we were talking about before, that's not that fit for everybody else, I don't fucking want them.
Right.
Because it degrades everybody else that's in there for whatever that experience is.
You're constantly, when you have somebody like that, the same. I agree with that too. Like, because they constantly turn into something. Like, instead of you doing what you need to do, you're constantly finding yours. Because we've had people like that over the years. You're constantly finding yourself like, this motherfucker. Yeah. Like, I don't know. They're just, they just don't fit in.
It
It
destroys.
detracts. It's a distraction.
Well, it becomes a cancer
Right.
in the gym that destroys everybody's training environment.
Right.
You have to all be there. You have to be there for each other. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, and that's not to say that you're going to avoid all drama because of that. 'cause
happen.
That's still going to happen, right? But it's going to be more manageable if enough of that culture is in each person to get over it. Right? And if it gets to the point where it's not, then they're not coming in. It's pretty simple. Do you have any other ones?
No, I just think that's really interesting that all four of you basically said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like, we all talk about the gym, and we will all talk training and how cool it is to be super strong and stuff, but if you're faced with the task of opening your own gym environment, opening a place that's very important to you, that's what you want within it. None of you said, I want the strongest people here. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not about that. It's about the other things that come within. I just think it's interesting. You basically all mirrored each other.
Well, here's a question for you guys that I wonder, because this is definitely true here, right? If I look at the stable crew that kind of been here for the last few years, I can almost guarantee if you ask any of them what everybody's best lifts are, they can't tell you. They don't know.
But I can call them at 3 a.m. if something was wrong.
I
and
know.
they'll be there.
Yeah. So
That's-
this is kind of validating what Tom's point is right there. So they don't know, say, what Naomi's best total is or her best squatter. Some will, but I can guarantee not all of them are going to be able to. They'll know ish.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of they're going to think, oh fuck, what'd she do for it? They're going to do the math and kind of calculate it out. Would that be the same with your crew?
Without a doubt, yeah. It's irrelevant for us.
Yeah.
It's about
Yep.
No, and only because it's smaller.
Okay.
Everybody knows what everybody's done because we're all trained together all the time, and we're all at the same meet. Like, and that's only because it's just a handful of people.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So that validates the point that you said. Any other topics you guys wanted to talk about we didn't bring up?
video games, anime, that nerdy stuff. Let's leave that for another day because I can go on about that.
Well, when Tom sent me the thing about the video games, the only thing that went through my head is I haven't played a video game since, and I thought about this, since like the 5th grade at all. And it was like the old Nintendo with the big
that was Nintendo or
fucking
Atari?
slip in there. Outside of like Candy Crush, which is I'll spend maybe like 5 minutes on, then get fucking pissed off, or something like that. And then anime was another one. I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck anime is. It's like a sticker that people put on their book bags and shit like that. And it's like Worlds of War. I've never played a computer game in my fucking life. And I'm like, if we're gonna talk about like anime and computer games, I'm fucked. I have no fucking idea.
I would have sat right here with you and be like, I don't know.
Oh, I'm just into such nerdy stuff. Like meathead one day, nerd at night.
The question that comes to me is the World of Warcraft. Yeah. Whatever percentage you are.
0.1% of that. Absolutely.
Right. Estimate cumulative hours.
It's disgusting. I can tell you days. You do /played on my account, it's over 2,000. Over 20 years? Yeah. I have played it since it came out in 2004.
What is it?
It's MMORPG.
That's just letters.
How the
to
fuck
him.
can I explain this? It's where 12 million people get on and play together to go on adventures and to compete against each other. I like what's called player versus player, which is skill-based matchmaking, 3 versus 3. That's my thing.
So what do you do?
You just beat each other in an arena fight. Who's better at it? Who's more skilled at timing?
You get a character, you level it up in different aspects. You can be like a warrior or a mage.
So like kill people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it all boils down to the same thing usually. Pretty much.
Oh, so fun. I've made so much money off that video game. I bought my first car with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, selling it. What's called
money off of it?
selling arena carries. Yeah, because the higher rating you get in that higher echelon, you get titles and percentages. So, yeah, I would carry you. I would do all the work for you in our 3 versus 3 team, and then you would send us a disclosed amount of currency, and we'd split it. So I bought my first car with it. Yeah, I've been invited out to play at BlizzCon, which is Blizzard's big convention, a couple of times. Couldn't go because I was a teenager, didn't have the money. So,
do you play better when you're blasted? Because we know that didn't work with powerlifting.
It didn't. I have. There's been a couple nights.
You had?
Play a game. You just don't care as much. Stress. Yeah. I have. I've been. Let's see. Probably. So they have seasons where 6 months at a time. I've been in the top 1% 6 times. You get different titles and mounts you can ride, like vehicles or dragons, whatever. I've got some that are so exclusive that only like the 0.1% have. I'll have them forever. But way better fucking World of Warcraft player than I'm a power lifter. I've definitely made more money off that game than this.
Yeah.
But there are people making serious money on it.
There's people making a living off of it, streaming it and all that stuff. Yeah. So.
Well, then why are you not streaming? Oh, you need to get up. What, like, I know this much. You can like play it on Twitch.
No, I could, but man, the time between like
You're
already doing it.
for like an hour or two a week. That's it's not. I don't think I haven't thought about it. So, but it's such a risk to
Just
give up.
fucking do it. How do you know it's not going to work until you
You're
do
not
it?
fucking wrong. I don't know.
I know I'm not wrong. That's why I wouldn't have said it.
I don't know. Maybe I'll go home and start a Twitch channel now in 10 years. Like,
Yeah,
he
what
made
the
it.
hell?
Well, might as well.
Does it cost money to start one?
No, I think you can stream for
Then
free.
what are you waiting
It's
on,
free,
dude?
yeah.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know. It's a good idea.
Between that and the carries, you can make serious money.
Well, you're not supposed to carry.
And
Exactly. We still do. People
now they're going
you
to ban
weren't
your shit.
supposed
You're
to
not
sell
going to
your
be able to play.
RuneScape account with all the dragon armor.
Dude,
on
there is
eBay
such
either,
there is such an underground market for like World of Warcraft and RuneScape where people are selling gold and accounts. Like people have made hundreds of thousands of dollars off these video games. Like there's a whole black market and stuff for it. It's fucking crazy how deep that rabbit hole goes.
Wow.
Yeah, it is nuts. So
So like,
Do
how
people
you,
get pissed if they see you come in to get like, oh shit, it's fucking the 0.1%?
it's probably the same as this, where there's only that high top 1% of it. We all know each other. It's the same couple of people. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I've played with you for 10 years. I know how you work, your personality. Pretty much the 1% competes against the 1%. So, but people will change up classes. You know, I play warrior, hunter, and rogue. So those are mine. The simple ones. The ones that are just cheesy. But no, I love it, man. I'll just, nowadays that I have a kid and a wife, I'll try and play a couple hours a night once the baby goes to bed. You know, a couple nights with the wife, like, hey, go play video games. Like, I have such a nice PC. I spent like $3,000 on it. I got 3 monitors and stuff. Like I have my all my powerlifting stuff over here, and then it's just my nice gaming setup. So that's my other hobby. So that there we gotta have.
it's
something
important
else.
to have another hobby as
That
well.
and motorcycles. I love
But,
riding
like,
motorcycles. So everybody's got to have something.
Honestly, the dedication that goes into some of the stuff in it would astound you. Like, I know I have a friend back home who probably wasn't top whatever percent that you are, but he'd be like, yeah, some of the raids that they do, like missions you go on with the payoff for a boss at the end, they'd be 24 plus hours straight, like a team of 4 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
They wouldn't eat, they wouldn't sleep, they'd just have like a 6-pack of Monster Energy, and
go
they
out.
would, you have to like say like, oh, I'm going for a bathroom break so that everyone else can pick up the slack for you whilst you're in the bathroom. And
Yeah, it's probably a good thing I never got involved in that.
yeah,
A lot of
but
lives
it's,
have been ruined. That's how you know it's good.
It's absolutely wild.
All right. So with that in mind, we'll close on that
Oh, yeah.
because you kind of just lost Rodney, myself. I played Super Mario when you died after 3 lives and you couldn't come back. And so thank you guys for coming out.
Thanks for
and
having us.
We're done.
It's not going to your organs. So your liver, your kidneys, your lungs, your heart are not getting the support from your body that they need because you've given your body this very strong signal that it needs to go to muscle. So if you were to stay on a huge amount of androgens for never mind years, decades, that's when you see organ damage, things start to grow.